Let's get sweaty.
Hello and welcome to the Shenmue Dojo Show Season 4, Episode 3. As always, I'm Skill Jim and I'm joined as ever by Matthew Oliver. Matt, how you doing?
Yeah, good man, James. How you doing?
Doing all right, thank you, Matt. Yeah, so when this airs, you'll have just got back from Disneyland. So, Matt, how was it?
Well, it was most likely excellent.
We'd hope so, right?
Yeah, if it's anything like Florida, then I'm sure it would have been a whale of a time.
Yeah, so you're going Disneyland Paris, right?
Yeah, that's right. We've been, well, we'll have been to Paris by this point. For a few nights, get away, chill out.
Ooh, okay, you're going the Eiffel Tower and that stuff.
So we'll do Disney and
then
then
common stuff.
See how we end up. We may just stay at Disney and then never go out anywhere else, but that's fine.
That's probably more than likely, actually. Once you get to Disneyland, there's like so much to do there with the... I don't know if you've ever done the Mickey Mouse breakfast thing before.
We're doing it. Would have done it by this point.
Amazing. I love it because all the characters come out like dressed as like Mickey Mouse comes out dressed as a chef, and like you just get random characters come up to your table and take photos with them. It's just a really nice experience, actually. If anyone's done that before, you'll know what I mean. Again, we're sort of continuing the chapter tile stuff that we've started like for the last couple of episodes here. So this is part 3, which means that back for another round of interview reading and chapter tile discussing is Stuart Peacock. So how are you doing, Stu?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I hear congratulations are in order. So,
oh yeah,
congratulations.
Thanks very much.
How are you feeling being an engagement on the cards of sorts?
Yeah, it's well, I mean, I've been with my partner for like 10 years now, so I figured, it's probably about time, isn't it? So picked out a ring that I, obviously thought he'd like, and he said yes. So yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, exciting.
And the little
times.
Sonic coin.
Yeah.
Nice touch. I like that. I thought it was a cool touch.
Yeah, I thought it was nice as well. He was a bit more enamoured with the ring rather than that. But yeah, I think it was a nice little cheesy touch. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the audio listeners, the Sega Shop February coin of the month was a Sonic coin, and it said "Be My Player 2," I think, on it. Bit of like a Valentine's Day sort of themed coin. But yeah, great little proposal. Well, Sega-related proposal piece, I suppose. Matt, we have got some news, but you're going to be covering this in a couple of weeks' time from the actual recording date. You're going to drag and drop your audio file, so that's why it's going to be, when you hear the news section, it's going to be very much Matthew heavy. But yeah, cheers for that, Matt.
No worries.
Spot on.
Welcome to the Shenmue Dojo News Digest, guys. I'm going to dive straight in as we've got a lot to get through here. So first off, I'm going to talk about the Retro Gamer Top 100 poll, which was done around about a month ago now, give or take. If you remember about 10-ish years ago, they did a poll looking at the top 100 games of all time, and Shenmue was in the top 10. I think it was number 2 or number 3, if my memory serves me correctly, but don't quote me on that. They redid that poll up into the PlayStation 2, Dreamcast, GameCube era. Shenmue 1 finished at number 9, which is really, really good, a top 10 result, and Shenmue 2 came in at number 19. There were some movers and shakers within the top 10 and all the rest of it. But to see Shenmue 1 in the top 10 still after all this time is a massive, massive plus. What it does is keep Shenmue in the community eye. It keeps the game, the franchise in the eye of wider gamers. And it just keeps us going, keeps us moving forward in terms of the fight for Shenmue 4, that people don't forget about it. But other than that as well, we have had a massive amount of fan games come out recently. Now, it probably should be a video on its own, quite frankly, but it is what it is. We're here today. So over the past month, 6 weeks, we've been treated to some absolute bangers of fan games. This is like the golden era for Shenmue fan games, certainly for a long, long time. Anyway, I don't mean that as any disrespect for the ones before this. So the first one I'm going to cover, released on April the 4th. I showed this on the stream about a month ago now. This is Virtua Pet Chobi-chan by Sam on the forums and on the Discord. It is a Tamagotchi type fan game where you keep Chobi-chan happy. You go for herb hunting. You can play some mini games, and it's just a good little half an hour fun game to pick up and play. Well done, Sam. Great game, and the link is in the YouTube description below. Now, the next game I'm going to cover is more of a project update, and this is for Shenmue 4 2.5D. We have some more sprite updates here. As you can see, you have Ryo holding the mirror, you have Shenhua, which is holding the Sword of Seven Stars, facing off Landy. Landy clearly takes exception to this and has grabbed Shenhua by the neck and has obviously taken out Ryo. Using the same motion, he's also taken out Ren. And I do like how they've sort of used very similar animation there for that. Then you can see Shenhua there. Looks like she's charging up her ki. If you think Project Berkeley, that's probably where that could be going. Shifting down a little bit. He's also made some little acrylic statues. They look quite cool, actually. And then going down a bit further to one of the later posts, he's got a model of Niao-san. You can see Ren there. And then you've got some lying down figures of Ryo, Shenhua, Landy walking, and Jiring as well. So the project seems to be moving in a good direction. We haven't seen anything in terms of gameplay since the gameplay test, I think about 5-6 months ago, if I want to get myself right around that. But the project seems to be moving on really, really nicely. I'm hoping that we get a full gameplay demo soon. Then, moving on, if guys, you remember Dreams of Saturn, which was released by George Kitchen about a month and a half ago, we got a little teaser trailer for his new game. It didn't really have a title at that point, but literally within the last week, we got a brand new, full-scale, kick-ass trailer for George's new game, which is called Shenmue Reclaiming the Path. Now, this is set in Hong Kong, Guilin. You follow Zhonghuang Bei, Wei Zhen, and more as you investigate the lore of Phantom Riverstone and also the Chi Men and what essentially they want for it. The trailer itself shows off new areas. George has built some new areas for this particular project. He's also taken the Shenmue 3 assets and retextured them to look like the Dreamcast assets. So when you think what Shenmue 3 could have looked like on the Dreamcast, this is it. This is absolutely what it could have looked like back in the day. Not only that, does it show off some new gameplay, it has more in there besides, and other than that, it's been received wonderfully by the community. News hit Eurogame and other gaming sites, so this is fantastic news, not only for the project, for George, and who deserves all the congratulations as well for this. It's great for Shenmue, keeps the name out there, and gives the fans something to unite around in terms of the fan project, the excitement, and hopefully push towards Shenmue 4. A quick note before I go on to my next point is Joe Kitchen put the trailers together, and as anybody who's seen Joe's work will understand his work around those character videos. It's absolutely fantastic, and combining that with George's skill around using Unity, I think we're going to get an absolutely brilliant game. It's going to have a much more serious tone than Dreams of Saturn, and that's absolutely fine by me. It looks absolutely stunning. But my point I was going to go on to is we need these sorts of things. We need fan games. We need the polls. We need all of it. Because what it does, it gives the community a focus. It gives us something to unite around. It gives us something to get excited about. And the excitement in the community around this sort of thing is palpable. You can see it everywhere. You can see people talking about it. Gaming sites picking it up. This is what we need. All the pushing towards Shenmue 4, the tweetathons, everything, that is very much important. But it's also important that we keep the hype going. We keep enjoying what is out there for Shenmue. We keep enjoying the fan projects, the content that everybody's putting out, because all of this just keeps it in conversation. It keeps the community alive, and it keeps it in people's minds, like Sega, Wisenet, everybody, as we push towards, hopefully, a Shenmue 4. That's the ultimate goal. Like I said, the tweetathons, hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4, hashtag Shenmue Anime 2, every 4th of the month. That's the bread and butter stuff. Making some noise on social media. Yeah, when Sega make a post, and you can get some Shenmue in there, do it, because you never know. You've got to keep the name out there. Any opportunity we get on social media, post, and I'm sure people are listening. And like I said, the fan projects are a really good focus for this. And we are, like I said, really living in a good golden era of fan games here. And I cannot wait to play this game. September 16th is the tentative release date for this. It is very much a work in progress, as is the title. Just temper expectations a little bit. George is working this pretty much on his own. So some of the requests he's getting, like Japanese and English voice dubs, for example, I get the enthusiasm, guys, around it, but he's one man on his own working on this. So you just think about it a little bit, because I'm sure he'd love to do all of those things, but there's limited time around this. So on top of that and fan content, I want to bring into some of the dojo content a little bit. Obviously, the weekly videos will continue. They should be scheduled up until around June, mid-June, if my memory serves me correctly, which is great. Obviously, we've got the streams on the 4th of every month and on other special occasions as well. We also have some really exciting exclusive content coming. I'm not going to spoil any of it. One of them's an interview, which some of you will have seen already in the Discord if you were subscribed to the Twitch or the YouTube, if you're a YouTube member rather. And the other is, I'm not even going to say what it is, but it's brilliant, superb work. Other little bits around the community. Remember to check out the Phantom Riverstone blog. Shenmue M2 podcast, I think, have put a couple of episodes out by now. Don't forget to give all the other community groups a good old shout. So Shenmue Forever, Wandering Through Shenmue, No Context Shenmue, Shenmue 500k. Everybody out there, you can see the community image on the streams and being posted on Shenmue Day on the 4th of every month if you want to give those guys a follow as well. But that is the news section. I hope you have caught up with all of that. All the links will be in the description below. But for now, guys, have a good one.
Welcome back. Thanks again for the news section there, Matt. We're going to have a quick music break now before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show today. So on our last Twitch stream, I believe it was, I actually asked some of the viewers for some song recommendations as we were playing Shenmue 3. I think we were playing the Chawan Sign story DLC, right, Matt, on that stream.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and we got a list of 6 songs requested to us, so we're going to be rattling these off in between each of the interviews. So the first one here is from Master Mo, Road of Blooming Flowers. Welcome back. That was Road of Blooming Flowers from Shenmue 3. It's actually the theme of Blossom Road there. Right then, guys, if you want to pull up interview 1. So this is an interview with Yu Suzuki conducted by, once again, these are all Shenmue Master interviews, and this is the one that they conducted at Gamescom sometime between August the 22nd to August the 26th, 2017. So we're going to go back in time a little bit now. Again, very much heavy, probably, of Shenmue 3 content within these interviews, but hopefully there's some stuff in here to sort of bring us back to some story content that we can relate to the chapter tiles. Mm-hmm. But again, very much just enjoy reading about some of the things that they were planning for Shenmue 3, and at the same sort of time we can see if any of it actually changed from this. This is 2017, so we're still a couple of years off release of the game here, so it'd be interesting to see some of the replies from Yu Suzuki. So we're going to have, I think it was Ruth read the questions and Robot Matt read the answers as Yu Suzuki. So hopefully you guys are okay with that. So, Kenji.
If Shenmue is so popular, I think we could find some answers in the finesse and depth of the themes it addresses. The sweet nostalgia of a Japan of the Showa era, the overcoming of a childish desire for revenge, fulfillment through travel and encounters, etc., so many subjects that Shenmue treats with the sensitivity of true authorial intention. A certain maturity in the choice and treatment of themes, admittedly, is unusual in the video game industry. Today, thanks to various surveys, we know that the average age of Shenmue fans is between 30 and 35 years old.
Well,
and
we
a few
were.
years,
A little bit older than that now. Yeah.
Nearly 40.
Do you think Shenmue 3 should be adapted for a mature audience?
Very good question.
Mm.
Yu Suzuki comes back to say that
I know that there are many relatively old Shenmue fans,
charming.
Yeah, really nice, isn't it? God.
so I'm making a game that can be played by people in their 30s and 40s.
Oh dear.
Oh god.
Oh dear.
But I hope that new players will also be able to appreciate it.
Oh,
So I'm making it in a way that young players can also play it.
that's really
funny.
good of you, Yu. Yeah, cheers, mate.
So in Shenmue 4, he's going to have Ryo Hazuki on a Zimmer frame as just so he can relate it to
Constant back pain and
making a game for 40 to 50-year-olds at that point, I suppose.
That's brilliant.
I love that answer. It's a bit of like an over sort of encumbered is the word, like a question, like a really long question just to ask about the average age of players, I suppose. We're going to have quite a lot of these. These are like quite chunky questions.
The production of Shenmue 1 and 2 was colossal at Sega's AM2 studio. Whether it was the budget, the development time and the number of employees on the task, Yu Suzuki was at the helm of one of the most ambitious works of his time. That said, the story having wanted Shenmue 3 to be reborn in the form of an independent project financed by Kickstarter, Yu Suzuki naturally now has a smaller team than the one he had for the first 2 episodes. Do you take advantage of being at the head of a smaller team to provide even more personal work?
Interesting question.
That's quite a
Good
good question.
questions, aren't they? Really
Yeah,
good
it's a
questions.
really good question, this one.
At the time of Shenmue 1 and 2, I had around 200 people working in the AM2 department.
That's massive, isn't it?
Yeah,
200
mental.
people's huge.
Well, we saw him in that premiere video, didn't we? All sat around
Yeah.
on those computers. Like,
Yeah, there's loads of them.
That said, as far as the current team is concerned, I have a lot of contracted staff spread across different locations. So this involves various management functions. Compared to the difficulties of the past, today it is a completely different complexity.
So, going off on that then, guys, just as a quick point to both of you, do you, how well do you think they managed to create a whole game in this smaller team? I know obviously time was at the essence and maybe even budgetary concerns at certain points, but for a small team, we're quite happy with the job that they did, I guess.
I think overall, yeah.
Yeah, it's a perfectly robust and like competent game, isn't it? And I mean, it's already a miracle, you know, enough that it exists sort of on the Kickstarter budget in the first place, and obviously with a small team as well, and the fact that it's relatively close to the first 2 games, which had 200 people working on them, like all at the same place at the same time. Obviously, there wasn't any of this remote sort of working back then, and it wouldn't have been as easy to keep in touch via the internet back then. So, considering the drastic change in circumstances, it's Shenmue 3 came out pretty well, I think.
These days, you get a Zoom call from Nagoshi-san, wouldn't you, to say, "Oh, it's you." Cut it out. What are you doing with that snail?
In recent years, we have seen a lot of discussion about the lack of risk-taking, originality and creativity within the video game industry. So much so that it is easy to have a fairly smooth overall vision, where all the games look the same and come one after the other.
Which is, I agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
Do you plan to create a game with Shenmue 3 that will, in a sense, mark the video game industry?
Before I dive into the answer, I agree with what's said here. You look at even now, AAA gaming, or even to a point AA gaming, it's very similar color palettes, very similar sort of stylization, etc. And actually, Shenmue 3, I know you can criticize the models a bit, and that's fair enough. The environments are absolutely brilliant. They're absolutely stunning, but they're very much stylized in a certain way, and they do stand out.
Yeah. I don't think any other game. What I'm trying to say is it's very much a unique experience. I don't think you can play Shenmue 3 and think like, oh, this just plays exactly like some random Final Fantasy game or Star Ocean game or something. It's very much its own thing. It's still continuing to be a very unique series, even though people compare it to Yakuza and Like a Dragon and that sort of stuff. If you play them side by side or essentially play one after the other, I think you would get very much 2 different experiences, and Shenmue feels very much a unique experience in its own right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, especially when everything else kind of feels sort of quite homogenized and almost sort of samey these days. I mean, well, even as far back as 2017, people were saying this, and that's 7 years ago now, and it still kind of feels like that now, doesn't it? It's not very often you get something truly unique anymore, or it doesn't feel like it as much as it did sort of back in like the 2000s and the 90s and like even before that. So yeah,
definitely.
The number of game series has increased significantly, and fundamentally original titles are considered highly risky.
Again, I think that's probably very true now.
As a result, we can see less effort put into doing new things. We can feel this particularly in Japan. Since these are games, it would be more fun to see various developers try their hand at trying different things. I would like to see the industry become more open to new challenges again, by trying new things.
Here.
Me too. Yeah, completely agree with that.
Interactivity is a component specific to video games, it is its very essence. In Shenmue 1 and 2, the interactivity tool was cleverly used to immerse the player in the world of Shenmue and make them experience some pretty incredible things. What will be the new possibilities in terms of exploration and interaction in the world of Shenmue 3?
The answer wouldn't be limited to interactions. In Shenmue 3, they will be different. I couldn't do it the same way as in Shenmue 1 and 2. In Shenmue 3, I plan to create several mechanisms that will be specific to it. Affinity system. Depending on Ryo's answers to Shenmue's questions, his affinity rank will change. She will behave more kindly, for example.
Which I think she does, in fairness. I think
Kind
it
of,
changes in sort of the way she greets him and wakes him up in the morning, etc.
Yeah.
Cooperative quest. Shenmue's level of cooperation will be subject to variation. It may improve or deteriorate. But it is difficult to explain it, only by speaking.
Didn't quite
Interesting.
I don't think we really got that, did we?
No.
No.
Do you reckon that would be like talking to the villagers? Like they were going to implement something where she could be a little bit more friendly with Ryo?
Possibly.
While speaking to them, or I don't know.
Character perspective, even if it only concerns a single event. During this event, the player will be able to change characters. For example, you can play Ren, or Shenmue. The objective will remain the same, but it is the way of achieving it that will change. For Ryo, it will be through combat. For Ren, the use of weapons.
Ooh.
Interesting. So that could relate to that little side quest that you discovered, Stu, or went into detail on.
It could well do. I don't think it sort of mentions weapons at all. But then, the text like only is literally like the bare bones of it, just sort of like the dialogue. There's sort of a lot of filling in the gaps. I kind of sort of had to do myself when I was putting the post together about it. But yeah, it does sort of suggest that there is a fight sequence. So yeah, whether he would have used weapons for that.
Like his switchblade or something.
Yeah, I think that's the only weapon we've sort of seen him use in cutscenes, haven't we? Although now that I think about it, we don't. Do we see him use it in Shenmue 3? Like, I know obviously he uses it in Shenmue 2, but
No, he doesn't get it out at all.
no.
Interesting.
So again, it's I think a system that had bigger ideas for it that just didn't, for whatever reason, probably money and time, didn't materialize. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I mean, I could have seen that little side quest in Biley Village with Ren, which could have been like where he discovered where Ryo had gone, and then that's how he knew to go to Niawu. That would make sense because he kind of knew he was going to Guilin, and I guess Biley Village, he kind of knew he was heading there, so that might have been good to see. Like a little short playable section of Ren going around, maybe having a fight with someone, to tie up a little bit of a character perspective there. And then the Shenmue side of things, I could imagine that being sort of her being talked into whatever with Li Feng or whatever her name is for it's like the alternative name of Niaosun, like the disguised version. And maybe we could have played a little bit of Shenmue and Niao, and maybe that was the original intention there.
I think that would have been really cool as well because it comes down to money. But had they done something like that, it would have filled in those gaps that Shenhua gets manipulated, gets friendly with her, then obviously goes with her, which would then fit the Nielsen character quite nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But obviously it didn't happen.
It's the same with Ren as well because like when Ryo's like about to get the boat over to the castle, Ren sort of gathered everyone else like Shilling Master Bay and Master Shu, I think his name is. He says, "Oh yeah, I asked them to come, but obviously, that happened like off screen at some point." And I always sort of wondered, like, oh, so would we have like played as Red, and he'd have had to like go to each of them and like convince them to help, maybe?
Yeah, that would have been cool to see.
That would have been really cool, but it's just one of those things that never really materialized, and it's a shame. I don't know if we'll get something like in Shenmue 4. I think the budget needs to be just spent on getting the story finished, but that's a different discussion for a different day.
We might have to let that go, I guess.
Yeah.
New free battle system. Until now, in the free battles, you fought one by one against your enemies. There was certainly multi-free battle, but you could only defeat one enemy at a time.
I'm not sure if that's strictly true, because you could use a kick and take a few of them out at the same time. But I get what he's getting at.
After defeating one person, you would move on to the other to defeat them as well, and so on. This was the way to fight until now. For Shenmue 3 fights, there is a new engine which is not that of Virtua Fighter. With this new combat mode, hi-ya,
Yu Suzuki mimes punches thrown in all directions.
So this is truly a multi-combat system. This is a new combat system.
Okay. So, yeah, I wonder how far along that system was at that point, because we saw some of the motion capture that they did in the Wisenet's offices or whatever, but it still kind of felt a little bit unfinished in a sense.
Yeah.
So I'd wonder how bare bones it would have felt back in 2017 either. I'm not sure, or they were working on other things, and that was kind of the 2017 battle system still, if you know what I mean, like they hadn't gone back to fine tune it.
Because on your first playthrough, when it first teaches you the combat system, doesn't it literally say something like, "Oh, just like mash the buttons and see what happens," which sort of feels like they might have just put that in quite late on, thinking like, "Oh, yeah, this isn't as sophisticated as we wanted it to be, so we better just say that."
Yeah,
I guess.
Do you know, it's a funny engine, the battle system in 3. When you spend time with it, and I spent a lot of time with it over the years, sort of messing around with it, actually, it is quite an in-depth combat system. It's all about creating distance. It's all about dodging and then striking, which I know you don't have the blocking element because that's technically part of the throw system, obviously from Virtua Fighter engine, so you don't have that benefit of it. But the block, you don't really need it. If you're timing it, you can dodge out the way, you can counterattack, and actually you can string some nice combos together. It needed more time in the oven, and it needed throws. It needed another year, I suspect, but it's tricky. It's really, really tricky. But I think in 4, if they use that as a basis, there could be a really good combat system there. I'll get rid of the input lag because that was a pain in the ass.
Like pressing 4 or 5 buttons to do one move.
Yeah.
Creating its own input lag, actually, when it's waiting for 5 commands, whatever. So, next question.
At a time when game design schools teach an ever more careful calibration of the rhythm of a game, the throbbing rhythm of a Shenmue, conducive to contemplation and strolling, can prove off-putting for excited players of the controller. At Shenmue Master, we deeply appreciate the particular cadence of Shenmue 1 and 2, which fluctuates between gentle tranquility, invigorating excitement, and frank turbulence. Are you planning to strengthen the pace of play in Shenmue 3, for example by adding more action?
No, I don't particularly plan it.
Which is interesting. We'll come on to that in a minute.
Beyond the comparison with the way of doing things in Shenmue 1 or 2, once all the finalized elements of Shenmue 3 are linked, if I feel that there is too much downtime, I will add something to fill it. And if certain events seem too close together, I will separate them a little more. So the setting will be specific to Shenmue 3. If everything is done close together, it strengthens the story. However, by bringing the elements too close together, the perception of the story is certainly better, but this impacts the playing time by gradually decreasing it. The further apart they are, the greater the playing time. But depending on the player, this might seem a bit boring. Finding the right fit probably involves a good sense of balance. So I think the most important thing is to spread everything out well so that the player is not stressed.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the story beats in 3 are quite probably needed a bit more between them, or something, if that makes sense, to sort of fill the gaps.
Yeah. Or at least make the story beats bigger. Because a lot of the cutscenes are like 10 seconds long, aren't they? Whereas like previously we were quite used to having these sort of 3-minute cutscenes that very much detailed and, conversing with Shuing and all these other characters, getting a lot out of them. Whereas in Shenmue 3, it's very much like a couple of back and forth question, answer, and then you move on again. So they didn't really flesh out those story segments as much as they did in the first two games. I guess action-wise, would you say there's quite a bit of action in 3 in a sense, but mainly because of the side activities, like being able to train at the Marshall Hall and the Rose Garden and the other hall, is it Shu something temple
Yeah.
or whatever. So there's like a lot of fighting that you can
Mhm.
do, but in terms of like action on a story basis, perhaps
Yeah.
that was lacking as well.
Yeah, I think because there probably is sort of more to do, like in the downtime, like than there is in like Shenmue 1 and 2, to be honest. Because, like you say, there's all the different ways you can train and like level up your moves, and then that sort of ties into the whole economy system with like how you get move scrolls as well. So I think stuff like that kind of helps sort of the bits in between, like the story and like the major action sequences. Like, it doesn't sort of feel like you're ever bored, like in between those. I mean, maybe certain players are. I don't know, but again, I don't want to go off to too much of a tangent. But Shenmue 3 sort of does a kind of better job of like giving the player more to do. There's sort of less waiting around. I mean, there was mini games in the first two games, but yeah, it just sort of feels like Shenmue 3 is a little bit more meaty in that regard. So I guess that kind of makes up for sort of the shortcomings of story and, like, as you say, like proper, like substantial cutscenes. Yeah, I guess that makes up for it a bit.
Yeah, like on multiple playthroughs, if you continue a save, for example,
Mm.
you could smash through the story, couldn't you? Because of all the time skips, jumping back to Shenfua's house.
Yeah.
So it's very much those in between things that on a first playthrough flesh out the game to make it sort of feel
Mhm.
longer, having to train and get your moves up to be able to beat certain
Yeah.
opponents and stuff like that to progress the story. So I suppose on the first playthrough, that's I don't know if it's a good thing or maybe a detriment to the game that it's got those roadblocks as such, or it would have been a detriment without them because someone would have just nailed the story in like 10 hours or something. Do you know what I mean? It's a difficult one.
Yeah, it sort of forces you to take your time and actually soak in the atmosphere, though, doesn't it? And I think
Yeah.
there was another interview where you actually said, like, I'd recommend that you like take your time, like, don't just rush through the story as quickly as possible. Just like
Just
actually
walk around as
take
well.
it in. Yeah, walk about. Um, you know, check out everything the game has to offer. And yeah, I think that is the best way to get the most out of Shenmue 3, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yu Suzuki really appreciates Chinese culture. He clarified this several times during various interviews or conferences. Are there aspects of Chinese culture that you would most like to convey to the player in Shenmue 3?
China being the setting, Chinese culture will naturally play an extremely important role. And since the main character is Japanese, Ryo will react with this Chinese culture based on what he is used to in Japan. Sometimes he might feel confused. Or the locals might observe Ryo's behavior, and find it strange from a Chinese point of view. Ideally, I would like to adopt a fun outlook towards cultural differences. I think it will be during the dialogues between Ryo and Shenhua that it will be most simple and interesting to highlight these differences.
Nothing really springs to my mind. I mean, what can you think of anything in
It's
particular that maybe those nighttime conversations with Shenfar that sort of like
Yeah,
stand out as
Yeah.
particularly cultural shock?
when they talk, it's sort of more about the differences between rural living and urban living, isn't it? Rather than sort of Japanese living in Japan and living in China. I mean, I might be forgetting certain conversations where they do go into those differences, but yeah, the main thing that stood out to me is them talking about how different living in the city is to living in the countryside. They sort of emphasize that quite a lot, like how shocked Rio is about the amount of work and effort like her and the villagers have to do to just get and do sort of basic things.
Yeah, one of them that springs to my mind, now you mentioned that, is there's like a conversation where Rio, I think he asks Shenhua if she's ever been to school or whatever, because obviously he's been to school and college or whatever, and she's actually not been to school. She's been brought up by a stepfather and learnt sort of her trades and skills like that way. So I suppose that is a bit of a culture shock to Rio to find that, you know, she's never had to go to school, kind of a thing. I suppose that's kind of what they mean.
For more than 15 years, Shenmue fans have dreamed of finally reaching the Bailu village that Shenhua talks about so well. The Miao are one of the 55 minority ethnic groups officially recognized by the Chinese government and are located mainly in the remote lands of southern China. Will we meet the Miao people, or other ethnic groups, in Shenmue 3?
There really is an ethnic minority village called Bailu Village. There are ethnic minorities like the Miao, the Ian or the Kam, who live in villages located in the interior of Guilin. Concerning the type of village that I wanted to create with the village of Bailu, I modeled it according to these villages built by ethnic minorities. The village of Bailu in Shenmue 3 is therefore built in the image of these villages, but their inhabitants themselves do not appear there. I hate to say it, but the real village of Bailu is not that beautiful. I made quite a few adjustments, you see. The Miao people and their villages are some of the resources I used, such as references that helped me build the game's Bailu village. But in fact, they don't appear in the game. Let's say that it would be more appropriate to say that they inspired me.
Okay. See, I was expecting, and we've been through this before, I was expecting more of a rural feel in Bailu with the characters and sort of the clothing that they wore and stuff like that was obviously a lot more modern than I was expecting to see. So maybe that's what he kind of means. He created the village inspired by those ethnic groups, but wanted to sort of make his own sort of take on it and jazz it up a bit, I guess.
Yeah, I still think had 3 released straight after 2, we'd have got a different Bailu, but I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe there would have been more to do than we anticipated without seeing the original plans for 3 and what they ended up being. Obviously, later on, it's hard to really call it, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I think, like you guys have said before, it's probably pretty likely there wouldn't have been an arcade like in the original plans, at least, and like possibly not even like capsule machines either, because yeah, I thought sort of everything like Shenhua tells you walking to Bailu at the end of Shenmue 2, it just sort of everything about it suggests it's really remote, it's really rural. And I think even before Ryo meets Shenhua, like you can talk to the kids sort of along the path after you come out of Languishan, and yeah, they've never heard of things like, you know, capsule toys or arcades or anything. So yeah, it does sort of seem to suggest that wasn't part of the original plan, and yeah, it might have just been like, oh, we better put like arcades and capsule toys and that stuff because that's what people expect from Shenmue, and they might get impatient if it's not like in the first location. So yeah, I feel like that probably wouldn't have been the case back in the day.
Or those children just never been to Bailu Village before and played QT Turtle 3?
It's possible, yeah.
In Panda Market.
The character of Ren helped inject some humor into Shenmue 2. Mischievous, a little cunning, and sarcastic. Ren is at the heart of many scenes which do not go unnoticed and which must have at least made you smile. Can we expect even more humor in Shenmue 3?
Yes, that's what I plan. Today, Ren's appearances will be. What we initially envisioned was extremely simple. A question of budget, right? But now that we are partners with Koch Media, I would like Ren to appear more often. Hee.
And it just gives a little definition of who Koch Media are. They're created the publisher and distribution arm of Deep Silver.
Interesting. Because he doesn't really appear too much, does he? You've got obviously the introduction cutscene with him. You've got the final stuff where you head into the Cliff Temple and him sort of helping out in the Ao Sun's room, and he sort of appears in the pier sort of docking building thing. And I guess there is a few cutscenes throughout, actually, with him in the mornings where Rio discusses some stuff with him and he gets the fake mirror. So I suppose maybe originally they had in even less, perhaps.
It sounds that way, doesn't it? It really does, which is... I mean, let's be honest, you didn't get a huge amount of Ren anyway. So
No, true.
What would we have got in like a $2 million or dollar game?
Yeah.
Yeah, begs the question.
Yeah, there's that little side quest with him as well.
Yes,
isn't there?
true.
There's something about him.
Getting all the junk. That one.
Yeah, which I do love that all that stuff actually gets added to your inventory, just like this completely useless, useless tat.
And there's a tiny little bit with Schilling's side quest as well, in the way I think is he wanting to sell something to an antique store or something.
I do vaguely remember it.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, Schilling's side quest was like something's been stolen, I think, and then Ren happens to have bought it from somewhere, something like that.
Yeah, it does sound familiar. I'd have to check it again.
We do an episode on side quest perhaps in the future.
So I don't know about you, but within Shenmue Master, we have been wondering for a long time about the meaning of the eagle in the Shenmue saga. Beyond their evocative power during the iconic introductory scenes of Shenmue 1 and 2, let's not forget that we can find in the basement of the Hazuki Dojo the sculpture of an eagle that belonged to Iwao Hazuki. The opportunity is too good. What does the eagle symbolize in the Shenmue saga?
Actually, I haven't created an eagle in Shenmue 3 yet. I used it mainly in the introductory scenes. As for the meaning, the eagle has a rather solitary existence, doesn't it? He has a certain dominion over the lands below him, with this gaze from above that observes everything that happens there. It's also a bird of prey, it's strong. It's a symbol of many things. The same can be said for steep mountains, for example. They embody nature. How could I put it? They are apart from the rest of the world. It is symbolic. To express the regions of deep and remote China, it fits Shenmue very well. In Shenmue 3, we already have crows, kites, sparrows. There's a lot of them. Pigeons, chickens. We have all kinds of things now. But we haven't introduced an eagle yet.
And they never did introduce an eagle.
No, they did not.
No.
Yeah, no, I was trying to remember, but I don't think there is there? It feels like that scene before they leave Bailu, where it's nighttime, and then the Shenmue theme plays. Feels like that would have been a good place to put one. But yeah, I don't think there is there? And I was just trying to remember the times where we see it in the first two games. I think there's one in like the introduction cutscenes you get, isn't there, where Shenfard recites the poem.
Yeah.
And then other than that, I think, yeah, when they get to the cave where they spend the night walking to Bailu, there's that really beautiful scene with the really good music track where you see the hawk flying around mountains. I guess it doesn't really have a point, really, but it's just one of those beautiful Shenmue scenes.
I suppose it's just a way for the camera to pan around that sort of location while Ryo's doing the Tai Chi. Maybe it hasn't got too much of a significance, I'm not sure. But then again, you also see it in one of Ryo's dreams, isn't there? There's like an eagle.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Flying towards as well. So it could hold some significance, or at least it did in the first two games, and then it's either another thing that's been forgotten about, or it was something wrote in by other writers at the time. Not sure if it would have ever had a particular meaning to it. Coming off of Yu Suzuki's answer there, probably not. But that wraps up this interview here. We've got a picture at the bottom here. Again, I'll put all the links to these interviews at the bottom so you can actually see them. They'll come with video footage as well. But we've got a nice photo here with various members of Shenmue Master. Peter's there as well from Shenmue Dojo, of course. Nice little photo there. And the credits are there as well if you wanted to check them out. I won't read everyone's name out there, but thank you very much to everyone that's conducted these interviews over the years. So we're going to move into our next musical break now. Next piece of music has been selected by Ryno during our Twitch stream. This is Flowering Hill. Welcome back. That was Flowering Gill, again from Shenmue 3. All these tracks are going to be Shenmue 3, and that is the temple exterior, at the top of Niawu.
Ah, yes.
I'm not going to try and pronounce it. It's like Hue Shao, something like that, temple. But yeah, it is the exterior of that sort of area. Nice piece of music there. Right, guys, let's move swiftly into the second interview now. This is an interview, again, with Yu Suzuki that took place at Magic 2018. This was actually conducted on February the 24th of that year, and this was conducted by Shenman, a Shenmue Master member, of course. So let's go straight into the questions again. So,
the relationship between Ryo and Shenmue, presented by Yu Suzuki as the hero and heroine of the saga, promises to be the central theme of Shenmue 3, against a backdrop of romance and cooperation, materialized by the establishment of systems game like the rapport system or the character perspective system, for example. Compared to what has already been done in the video game industry, in The Last of Us, Ico, or even The Walking Dead, can we expect a completely innovative system in the world of video games and an experience of unique gameplay for players?
That's hard to say. A new system. I wonder. It will be a little different from what has been done before. I wanted to increase the amount of dialogue and conversations between Shenmue and Ryo.
Yeah, I suppose he did.
Yeah, I think he did. I think that question's interesting, that they're talking about an innovative system. It's like, for me, I don't want to sound like I'm being critical here, but given the budget we had, we didn't know what it was, but obviously the Kickstarter, etc. I don't know. I wasn't expecting it to be innovative because I didn't think they had the money to, but that's just a point, I guess.
Yeah, I wonder if the wording of the question is to try and get more out of you, Suzuki, to
possibly,
talk about the game as such. But like you say, I was just expecting, at the bare minimum, a Shenmue-like game. You know what I mean? It's
exactly, yeah.
Not going to be blow us away like a 100 million quadruple A Shenmue directed by Steven Spielberg again or something like that. We were just expecting I was expecting a more bare bones Shenmue 3, to be honest, than we actually got. So
yeah, and I was just pleased we got those nighttime conversations with Shenmue and Ryo, because it just sort of continues what they set up with the conversations you could have when they're walking to Bailu. I thought it was really nice that was continued on, and obviously there's all these different options as well, so that sort of adds replayability as well, to choose a different option on your next playthrough. And I was pleasantly surprised that was so substantial, so I was happy with just that, to be fair.
Those conversations are some of the best in the series for me.
Yeah, 100%.
They're brilliant, and I think that's the substance that I think mirrors the previous two games. It just obviously for budgetary purposes and probably time, they couldn't expand that further, unfortunately.
Yeah, I suppose there's only so much that they could do.
Yeah, exactly.
With those sort of parameters, but again, I agree with both of you. That's some of the best stuff for me.
Yeah,
some of the conversations between Shenmue and Ryo is what I wanted.
Yeah,
I'm not here for beating up 70 thugs or playing a game of Lucky Hit or QT Title 4 and Shenmue 4. I'm not particularly there for that stuff anymore, or another little forklift section. I want more character building, and that stuff in Shenmue 3 was, perfection, chef's kiss, or whatever people say.
On the subject of dialogue, Yu Suzuki revealed in an interview in 2010 that Shenmue 3 would not expand outwards, but inwards. Will we be treated to deeper and more philosophical dialogues in Shenmue 3? On values and the meaning of life, even spirituality.
It will be in the same vein, really. But there won't necessarily be many of them.
Okay.
This kind of goes into what we were just talking about, wasn't it? I think there was quite a lot of it.
Yeah, I do. And a lot of maybe not so much in your face philosophical stuff, but there was a lot of yin and yang stuff that you could identify, and some wisdom and that sort of stuff from certain characters. It's definitely there.
And the comment about not expanding outwards but inwards, I think that's something you've talked about quite a lot, isn't it, Matt? About how games should kind of start doing that again, rather than just these open worlds that are getting increasingly bigger and bigger and bigger, and the scope of them's just ridiculous, when really kind of what a lot of us want is just sort of that more cozy, intimate feeling that the Shenmue games had.
I think Yu Suzuki understands the limits of that. I think he doesn't.
Yeah.
He would never create a game world that's insane for insane's sake. I think it needs to all have a particular purpose to why it's that big.
Yeah, agreed.
Particularly due to the multiple choice dialogues, will we be entitled to multiple storyline branches and a different course of the game depending on the players with multiple possibilities?
Expecting a lot there.
This is an interesting response, actually. I think he's trying to temper expectations a bit here.
For Shenmue 3, I couldn't do something that expansive while having a changing story, for multiple reasons. But there are such things as a system in which a conversation can cause things to go differently. There are these kinds of things. Well, I guess this is something new. You will have a lot of interactions with Shenmue during the game. Actually, I haven't named this system yet. It's a bit hard to explain.
Is he thinking about the nighttime conversations, do you think?
I think so. And also when you think of the multiple storyline branches, you think of the QTEs in 2, where if you fail one, it takes a lot for you to like outwardly get a game over, doesn't it? You get different branches to it. I think what he's saying here, he doesn't have that option for probably many reasons, and is trying to temper that expectation, maybe.
It's interesting actually reading these questions and answers. He hasn't actually oversold Shenmue 3, has he? Like anything that we sort of expected, we created it ourselves in our own head. A lot of these answers to these questions where you're expecting like, oh yes, Shenmue 3 is going to have multiple endings, multiple paths and stuff. Maybe we were expecting that kind of an answer, but Yu Suzuki, like you say, is like, he has tempered people's expectations there by saying like, it's not going to have that much because it's not possible for us to create that with such a small team. But we have created certain things that I still think you're going to enjoy, and we did.
I guess it's difficult. It's difficult how you communicate that out wider, because I think to hardcore Shenmue fans like us, we're going to read every interview, we're going to watch every video, we're going to interact with anything that we can find Shenmue related. The more casual people, unless it's, for want of expression, right in your face, they may not see this sort of stuff, which doesn't temper the expectation. It doesn't explain things. And that, I'm not saying it's the sole thing around Shenmue 3 and the reaction to it, or the divisive reaction to it, but I think had more people paid attention to what I think was being said, maybe the reaction wouldn't have been as extreme from some people as it may have, as it turned out to be. It may have been. I don't know. I'm spitting in the air a little bit as to whether this would or would not have happened. But he is being quite clear here that he doesn't have the mechanisms to do those sorts of multiple branching things that he did previously for whatever reason. It's in black and white, and it's not like he's hiding it. But for whatever reason, that message didn't come out maybe wider of the hardcore fan base, and maybe it should have done.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of is like, this is 2018, so maybe they are now aware of how far they can take this game. So previously, maybe all the way back in 2015, when he was talking about buy you this and buy you that, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, perhaps now he's sort of come to terms with, actually, we were not going to be able to do those things. So as a response to these questions now, I'm just going to say it how it is. Almost.
He's sort of laying the groundwork. And I did a video on this, I think before Christmas, and I answered the question: was the scope of Shenmue 3 too big? And that was based off the Kickstarter updates that we'd been doing, James, at the time. And we looked at the scope of the project back then, and both of us, when we're going back through those updates, were like, Jesus Christ, how big was the initial scope of this? And actually, they've had to rein it back. Now, from a project management standpoint, obviously Yu Suzuki is massively ambitious. That's him, and we wouldn't have had the games that we do without that. But I do wonder if he probably needed more of that to sort of bring that focus into what he could do. As a point of managing the budget, managing the project. The game we got is solid. It's fine. I enjoyed it, but you have to take the good with the bad, I guess. I'm trying to sort of balance an argument here that, yes, the game's fine, but actually, could they have managed what they had better? It's a definite discussion point. And I do think the scope of 3 in the Kickstarter probably was too big looking back. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And you come into it with these grand ambitions, and eventually you have to taper that back. But I'd rather have ambition than not.
Yeah, I reckon back then Yu Suzuki was so excited. He was like, I want to do this, I want to do that. You know, like anyone would be at the start of a project. You've got all these ideas that you want to do, and actually, when you kind of get to the nitty gritty of it, and you've seen how complex it is to learn a new engine like Unreal, you realize actually I've got such a small team. Actually, I can't do a lot of these things that I really wanted to do. So I'm sure Yu Suzuki's probably as disappointed as anyone that perhaps he wasn't able to include Baisha. You know, he didn't just make that decision overnight. It was probably such a hard decision to say, like, look, guys, we're going to have to find a way to end Shenmue 3 because we're not going to be able to continue the story on into Baisha and, you know, get the original ending that we had planned. We're going to have to rewrite the story a little bit. And I bet that hurt him at the time. You know, we've seen in that video with, I forget who it was it Game Informer, where he actually rated Shenmue 3 himself before it even released, a 7 out of 10. So, you know, you could kind of see his mindset there, that he probably is a little bit disappointed by how the project ended up being wrapped up. He wanted to do so much more. But again, that's more of like Yu Suzuki having that initial excitement and then sort of coming to the realization that it's a lot harder of a project than it could have been.
Definitely
messed up the wording of what I was trying to say there at the end. But you get the idea.
Yeah.
Can you confirm for us that Shenmue 3 will be a game with high replayability?
Replay value.
After progressing through the story, I wish there was some sort of sub-story. Well, the term sub-story isn't really accurate. I'd like the player to be able to collect items, that sort of thing. If the game had a multiple story, it would have a big impact on our development, time and other aspects. This would be a considerable burden in terms of development. So while designing a narrative game, I would like to include gameplay that is not tied to the story.
I mean, this sounds a bit like the Bailu-chan and the Battle Rally stuff,
it does a bit,
doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it very much sounds, especially with Battle Rally, that DLC, which is very much a spin-off mini-game type thing. But it's really cool. I really liked it. I thought it was the best DLC of the lot.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, watching you stream it recently, Matt, it kind of made me, I actually want to pick this up and play it again. Because it's got nothing to do with the story, has it? Or like the rest of the game. But yeah, it's just fun.
Exactly, and that's what you need in some regards, isn't it? A bit of fun. And Battle Rally is that. You go around, you hunt Bailu-chan, and then you run around punching people in the face. What more do you want?
And like he says, there's a lot of stuff to collect in the game. There's like a lot of outfits and stuff. So perhaps that's what he was thinking in terms of replay value. Like, not perhaps you start a second story and you're getting different things happening within the story, but just maybe like on your second playthrough, you keep your money, you keep your stats, then you can afford different outfits.
I mean, it worked for me because my second playthrough, I sort of made it my mission to like, right, I'm going to get all the trophies. So, you know, I'm going to get the platinum on PS4. And I sort of ended up like having a sort of little daily routine of doing it. Because there's, you know, the trophy where you, is it 1,000 fish? I think that's the one everybody hates. I really enjoyed getting that one because I sort of, I'd get up. I think I was in like Niaowu at that point. You know, I'd sort of get up in the morning, do a bit of fishing. Then I'd sort of go around all the capsule toy machines, like trying to get all of those because you get a trophy for collecting those. And then, then you're trying to get all the move scrolls and like, buy all the stuff and do all the stuff that you've got to do. That so I found that really rewarding, like on a second playthrough, and getting all those bloody herbs as well, the last few, which were absolute nightmare trying to spot them, but
find where they are.
But no, it absolutely worked for me. Like all this extra stuff, like not tied to the story, like that brought me back for a second playthrough. So I think he succeeded there.
Yeah, agreed. So I'm just looking ahead at these next questions. So these kind of take us back to the chapter tells conversation in a sense, a little bit, although it doesn't look like it goes too much into detail on them. So,
can you tell us in more detail about the gameplay phase of Baisha Village, which is inspired by the Warring States period of China and which promises to be completely different from the usual Shenmue gameplay?
I can't tell you right now.
I wonder if it was still a thing or not. Anyway,
we'll never know, I suppose. Unless there's a post-mortem like we've requested.
In the artworks of the first 2 Shenmue, we could see Ren and Shenhua riding horses. Will it be possible to ride horses in Shenmue 3? Or to use any other means of transport?
Shenhua and Ren were on a horse? With Shenhua? He was not with Shenhua on the horse. Only Ren. No, not this time.
Interesting, because there is that concept art of Shenhua on a horse, but he doesn't seem to remember that, does he?
No, and obviously the one with Ren that we've seen as well.
Yeah. It sounds like he knows about the Ren on a horse, judging from that question, but answer rather, but not Shenhua. He's a bit surprised by that.
Definitely.
Possibly. So maybe he's a little bit confused by the question.
Stars and their legends are often mentioned in the dialogues of the first 2 Shenmue. Will they play an important role in the history of the saga?
Yes, the game is built around this common thread.
Interesting. Big Dipper and stuff. Did they mention the Big Dipper in Shenmue 3?
I don't think it's... Is it... Sorry, Stuart. Carry on.
No, yeah, I was just saying, I was just trying to remember. Like, I have like a vague memory of like Elder talking about some of these legends and stuff, but yeah, I don't think the Big Dipper specifically.
No, I'd have to think about it. I know there's the ending scene at Bailu, they sort of pans up to the sky and the stars, doesn't it? But I can't think if it's the Big Dipper specifically off the top of my head.
Or on the balcony outside the hotel. Does anyone look up at a star in particular?
No.
I can't quite think. I know, doesn't Rio look up at a star and says, Shenhua, I'm coming, or something?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to go back, but maybe the North Star was flickering or something. But as he said that, I don't know.
Several times in Shenmue 2, the Tang dynasty is mentioned, particularly regarding the origins of the village of Bailu. Why did you choose this period in Chinese history?
The Tang dynasty is not mentioned. This is the Qing dynasty.
Yeah.
Very blunt.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not telling you why I chose that dynasty.
Yeah. Not Tang.
In Shenhua's house at the end of Shenmue 2 there is a painting representing the city of Luoyang which makes her feel nostalgic. Will we be able to visit Luoyang and the White Horse Temple in the rest of the adventures?
We won't go that far yet.
Yes. Okay.
And he specifically mentions the White Horse Temple, which I'm sure is that place that I was looking at, right?
Yeah, I think
White
it was.
Horse Temple. I'm sure I was looking at that in that lore stream. Yeah, that is the one. So in a sense, this kind of semi-confirmation that that's the place in the picture. I mean, Yu Suzuki hasn't said yes or no, but he says we won't go that far yet. Maybe I'm reading too much into that as well.
In a previous interview, you mentioned your wish to implement an advanced QTE system. Can you tell us more?
We're working on it.
Will this be an advanced QTE system?
He.
Not sure why would he be laughing about that?
I don't know.
Maybe at that moment he pictured Rio getting hit by a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's just the like basic QTEs in 3, isn't it? It hasn't got like the command QTEs or any of the stuff like Shenmue 2 had.
Nothing quite advanced, unless he's thinking about QT Title 3, where it's like fake outs and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, not a fan of that. Not a fan.
No, I mean the QTE system's very similar to the old ones, isn't it? It's not too dissimilar. You have obviously the individual button presses, and like for body check, you have to put in several buttons very quickly, which again is very similar to the old system.
Like the action QTE system.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to add arcade games to Shenmue 3?
I can't really say for sure.
He did,
of course, yeah.
Is an optimization of Shenmue 3 on the PS4 Pro planned?
For the Pro? Let's see. I imagine we will make some adjustments on the Pro. Wondering if it will be possible to play it in 4K? It's a little difficult to say. For the moment, there is nothing planned in 4K. But hey, I can't say anything. It's quite confidential, so I can't say anything.
Could you play it in 4K?
Not on the Pro.
Pro
if it
only
was
went to like 2K, didn't it, or whatever it is?
Yeah, it may have checkerboarded up, but it wasn't native 4K. I know on PC you could have resolution at 4K, and it does look sharper. I will say that.
Okay.
And on the PS5, that does go to 4K now, doesn't it? Or at least
it'll go to whatever. It'll go to the internal resolution of the game and then up-res it. So I think it's definitely above 1080p, and and it hits broadly 60 FPS on PS5 now because the frame rate's unlocked, which I always thought was a weird decision. They didn't have the option to lock the frame rate. Certainly on the base PlayStation 4, lock it at 30, and I think it would have been a bit better in terms of the sort of the jaggy experience around it, I guess, and the frame rate drops. But
I mean, it's good now for PS5 because you can.
Yeah, it's fine. It's brute force.
Take up to 60 FPS, and even the loading screens are super quick, aren't they?
Yeah, it's brute force basically.
Yeah.
We had the chance to interview 3 of the composers of the music from the first 2 Shenmue games, and we were able to realize what a special project Shenmue was for them. They were particularly impressed by the sound meetings that you organized with them in order to choose the music for each scene in the game. For the music of Shenmue 3, do you still organize this type of meeting?
I had a different approach at the time, so it must have had an impact on them. For Shenmue 3, spending so much time on sound. On Shenmue 1 and 2, we had a lot of resources and I was able to spend time on a lot of things. On Shenmue 3, I have to work under various constraints, so continuing this method is not really feasible. I work with someone else now. All sound effects are redone from scratch. And for background music, much of it had never been used before. This is the case for a lot of songs. So even if we only include these for Shenmue 3, everyone will be hearing them for the first time. Because there are so many pieces that haven't been used. Some of them were written a long time ago. Lots of good songs exist.
So that probably explains quite a lot about some of the music choices and placements in 3, I guess, because they weren't able to spend like quite so much.
I mean, they did reuse a lot of
time on it.
Music,
and it also says here he's working with someone else. So the whole thing of the original composers coming back, while they obviously used their music from the archives, they certainly didn't do anything new by the sounds of it.
No. According to this answer, like Yu Suzuki just assumes that most of the pieces of music haven't been heard yet.
And he's probably right.
He probably is right for the most part, but they did kind of reuse a lot of existing Shenmue 2 stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Fans have noticed that you have fun hiding Easter eggs and other hidden elements in trailers and promotional images. Can we expect other nods in future images revealed or even in the game? Some attentive fans saw the characters of Neo-Sun and Landy in the background of the Gamescom 2017 trailer.
But I didn't hide anything. They were never placed deliberately. They are there by mistake. I didn't put them there on purpose. Ha ha he he, it wasn't deliberate.
So he's got a random Neo-Sun in the world in view.
Very, very random.
Very random.
Following the 4 new screenshots revealed during Magic 2018, can we expect new images of Shenmue 3 in the coming weeks?
Oh, well. It should be the ones I showed at the conference. The 4 images that I revealed here.
As Shenmue fans, what could we do to help you Suzuki and WiseNet and make Shenmue 3 a success?
Supporting us like you're doing now is a great help. All we have to do now is give our best to the game design.
Fair enough. So yeah, thank you again to the Shenmue Master Team there of Trent and Shenman, Shendream, Cosman and Kenji, I think. They're all individual people, I think. But yeah, very good, very good. So we're going to move into another music break now. This was a song selected by Retrogodfather, and it is the interior of the temple now called Lament. Okay, welcome back. That was Lament from Shenmue 3. Right, guys, let's move swiftly into the second to last interview here. This is an interview with Yu Suzuki at Magic 2019 now, and this was conducted on March the 8th, 2019. So this is actually the Magic that me and Matt attended.
Yeah.
We weren't particularly higher ups of the Shenmue Dojo, so we weren't actually in this meeting for the interview, unfortunately. Although we do have our own little stories about meeting Yu Suzuki, don't we, Matt?
Yeah.
Outside of this, which meant a lot to me at the time.
Quite a good story, that one.
We may have already done it in the past, but we'll do it another time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So let's get stuck straight in.
The first Shenmue defined the foundations of open-world gaming. Do you have the ambition to revolutionize the concept of open world with Shenmue 3?
It will be the same concept. Shenmue 1, 2 and 3 share the same concept. This concept consists of granting more freedom to players and is called free. The word open world is a name that appeared later and is the most appropriate word for this concept, but originally the concept of Shenmue was defined by the word free. I think it's a game that offers a high degree of freedom and a wide range of choices.
Mm-hmm.
So that raises an interesting question, actually. When was the term open world coined? Because I think he's right. We didn't really, like, when Shenmue first came out, did people call it an open world game? Did people call, like, Grand Theft Auto 3 an open world game? I don't know.
I'm not sure
if that term was really around back then.
I know they didn't ever call either free. That never stuck.
No.
Did it? But I don't know about open world.
Do you know, I mean, they talk here, I'm just looking at some articles on the internet. One article says GTA 3 essentially created the modern open world sandbox game. And it's like, no, it didn't.
I'd argue Sonic Adventure did, in a sense, as well, because that was fairly open world.
True, yeah.
They all these sites go, what game revolutionized open world games? They all say GTA 3. And I'm not being disrespectful to GTA 3, which at the time, don't get me wrong, it was, for the size of the world it was really, really good. But it didn't revolutionize it. Shenmue was the proof of concept that they could do something like that. And the level of detail between the two games is stark. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now.
Well, GTA 3 was released in 2001, I've just seen. So,
yeah,
you know, you're talking Shenmue was essentially an open world game built in 1998 almost, if you know what I mean. I know it was released in 99, but when you've seen footage of it, it was essentially already built as an open world game in 1998. I agree. I think that someone needs to update the Wikipedia
there. Will you use real instruments to record some of Shenmue 3's music?
Yes, real instruments are used. The Erhu is an example, and I have also made recordings using a full orchestra. On many occasions I have used non-electronic instruments.
I do wonder if that refers more to the previous Shenmue 1 and 2 stuff.
Possibly, or Oxen Toe. Is that Erhu?
Yeah.
In terms of the development team, we have the impression that the Shenmue saga is also a beautiful story of friendship, whether with Takeuchi-san, Hirai-san, Iuchi-san, or even Miyawaki-san. We also see Shenmue 3 as the work of several video game artisans of whom you would be the conductor. Could you tell us about it?
The members of the development team are completely different between Shenmue 1, Shenmue 2 and Shenmue 3, and therefore the strengths and weaknesses of the team are also different. With Shenmue 3, the 3D engine is also different compared to before. That's why I took my original plan and redesigned it to get the best result with the new members and the new engine, which is what we are working on.
Okay.
Yeah, because did any of them come back for Shenmue 3? Because I think Takeuchi, he was the guy who designed
He's the architecture guy, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah, and I know they interviewed him during the Kickstarter, didn't they? But I don't know if he sort of stayed on.
Pretty sure he did some of the concept drawings and stuff of the building design and the environment design. I'm sure he did. Ryuji Ichi, he was originally part of the Kickstarter, wasn't he? But it seems something happened. I don't know what. It just seems like happened. Something just sort of. He seemed a bit upset for some reason, and maybe they realised they had more than enough music and they didn't really need to pay him to make more or something. So
Possibly.
they decided to cut ties with him just to save a little bit on the budget there. I don't know. Not sure.
Despite your immense responsibilities and probably a lack of time, are there certain things that you personally wanted to do in Shenmue 3? For example, model certain objects/maps or write a few lines of code.
I do quite a few things, actually. I've tweaked different parts and gotten my hands dirty, for example reducing Shenmue's face by 1 millimeter or moving a simple piece of hair. I work/fine-tune at a very fine level. I also made adjustments to the combat. Many things.
Yeah, he's definitely a perfectionist, isn't he? Bloody hell.
Yeah. Millimeters.
It's very important. Yeah,
of course.
Shenmue's design has changed a lot since the game was first presented, including its outfit and more generally since the very first Shenmue. Are these changes a symbol of your search for perfection?
The biggest difference with Shenmue 3 is the move to physical rendering. For example, in the past, character shadows were directly integrated into their 3D models. But with physics-based rendering, how light reflects and so on, everything is calculated precisely. 3D models must therefore be created with very high precision. With Shenmue, for example, we had to make sure her facial expressions looked right and conveyed a touch of femininity, and it was an iterative process. We wanted her to look as believable as possible.
Okay, interesting. So do you think it was something to do with the shadows then that they changed her outfit?
Possibly, or they couldn't get it to sort of function the way they wanted to. I don't know.
I suppose, yeah, potentially it might have been more complicated for her to sort of do movements, I guess, because she had like the long sort of like dress type thing, didn't she? But and then obviously in Shenmue 3, it's just kind of a bit more almost sort of casually dressed. So yeah, I wonder if that was the reason, whether it was just to make animations easier.
I'm thinking like maybe when she's like being tossed around a bit by the guards of Neoson, maybe in a long flowing dress, there was a lot of clipping going on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly.
I could imagine. Yeah.
Will Ryo's food and diet this time have an impact on the gameplay of the game, such as his endurance in combat or his recovery?
Food is important in Shenmue 3. There are many shops that sell food. If you don't eat, you'll be hungry, so food is more important than in Shenmue 1 and 2. To give an example, if you don't eat, you won't be able to run.
We know that, don't we?
In the first two Shenmue, the management of physics gave a lot of credibility to their universes, especially when Ryo precisely placed his feet on the steps of the different staircases. What progress can we expect in terms of physics with the Shenmue 3 universe? Especially during fights.
Yes, physics calculations will also be carried out within Shenmue 3.
And I'm going to make a point here. There's so many video games now, spend a lot of money, they have the same animation walking on a flat surface as they do going up a staircase.
Yep.
Shenmue 3 bothered to change the animation for the stairs, certainly in Bailey when you go over the Verdant Bridge, for example. You don't need to do that, but it's a nice touch, and I like that sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that. Like each individual step he walks on, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's cool, and it's really nice.
Yeah, that kind of detail is what defines Shenmue, really.
Absolutely.
How do you create Shenmue 3 3D models?
We create the models ourselves. The models are not made with the 3D engine, we use Unreal Engine 4, you see. We outsource and do some in-house. Of course, we also create original designs in-house. Externally, we use studios like Laksha, and we also create designs in-house.
Okay, fair enough.
Will money be more important in Shenmue 3? You mentioned better integration of minigames into the flow of the game.
Money is important. For example, let's take a trip. A trip during which you have money is not interesting, because you can spend it on all your needs. But in a trip without money, you have to manage things on your own, and all kinds of drama happens. Shenmue 3 is designed so that money is essential to progression within the game, as it makes the game more interesting. Also in Shenmue 2, your bag is stolen at the start, right? It makes things more interesting, I think.
That's a controversial decision.
Just get rid of all your money instantly.
Again, he is saying there that money's important to progression. I don't. Shenmue 2 does it twice, doesn't it? You get the $500 for Ren, you get the $500 again for the Kowloon fights.
Yeah.
And obviously Shenmue 3 does it twice, the 2,000 for the wine or alcohol, whatever it is, and then 5,000 for the reverse body check. I don't know. It's something that I think 4 needs to avoid if possible.
Even
I mean, I'm sort of split on that because I think if done well, it sort of kind of forces you to kind of engage with the world in the game a little bit, which can be a good thing. Like, if it's done well, like, yeah, obviously, if you just constantly get like over and over again, like, oh, you need money to do this, you need money to do that, like, it's going to get annoying, isn't it? But I'd say I don't really mind it sort of every so often, because it's sort of like, oh, how can I make money? Oh, there's this mini game, or I can do it like this, I can do it like that. So I think if it's done well, it just sort of doesn't feel like a chore. But yeah, I guess it's just about how you execute it.
Depends on the player.
Really.
Like, I'm thinking Shenmue 2, if you watch any new player play Shenmue 2 like on a Twitch stream or something, they'll get to like the money barriers, like needing $500 or whatever to give to Ren, or even like in the Anton apartments where you've got to give it to that bloke just to get some information out of him at the start.
Yeah.
You kind of need to do crates, don't you, at first. Yeah. There is other means of getting money, but I find when I'm watching people play the game for the first time, even though there's all these other systems in place, like big or small, or the gambling dens and stuff like that, everyone seems to just go and do crates as though that's the only way of making money. And then that makes it tedious for them. And they're like, I've got to move crates and crates and crates and crates. And then, next morning, now I've got to do the library books and then head back to the harbour and do crates because I need 500, whereas it's like pretty much a simple roll it on top, I won. There you go. There's $500. But people don't look outside the box there, and a lot of them don't use. There's like a specific, I think it's the Y button. There's a specific conversation button for asking about part-time jobs and money and gambling. And I find a lot of the new players completely ignore that and just go for the simple, what they know at the time or what they've been taught up until that point, and not really try and find different ways of making money, which is annoying.
And it's frustrating as well, because I'm sure the game, like when you first told you have to pay for your room at the guest house, like the game like comes up with like a help thing saying like press Y to have money conversations.
Well, just close it instantly.
Don't even look at it. Which I think it just says a lot about modern gaming. Really, just no, I can't read that. I've got time. I want to get to the next bit.
I haven't got time to what will help me do stuff quicker in a minute. But I'm going to spend the next hour wandering around being like, well, how am I making money here?
Yeah, exactly.
A bit like the Sega Saturn in the first Shenmue, do you plan to give a nod to the Sega Dreamcast in Shenmue 3?
It's a secret. He.
Obviously, we got a nod to the Saturn again.
We did. Very much so.
Multiple times, I think, actually.
Yeah, it's in a capsule set as well, isn't it?
Possibly, but I think it's also in one of those blue spider rooms as well.
It's in one of them.
Yeah.
One of them. It's in one of the It's in the temple in Bailu, and it's also in one of the arcades in Niaowu as well.
Yeah,
so it's around a bit actually. There we are.
I do wonder, like, how some of that stuff was okay to use, but a lot of other things weren't, like Sega licensed stuff, if you know what I mean.
It's weird, isn't it?
It is weird.
I don't.
Yeah, because it seems like, we can't have like Virtua Fighter capsule toys, but we can have this massive Virtua Fighter 3 poster in the arcade.
Oh, and that's true, yeah. And a big Virtua Fighter graffiti on the Red Sticks wall, that sort of stuff. Weird, very weird.
Will the phone card allowing you to call characters from Shenmue 1 and 2 unlock flashback scenes?
I'd like to keep that to myself, for now. I would prefer that everyone wait with bated breath to see what happens.
Yeah. It's good that he kept some stuff like that a secret.
Yeah.
I think.
Will Shenmue 3 contain crazy humorous moments like the duck race in Shenmue 2?
You can expect there to be some.
As surprising as it may seem, love and romance are themes that are rarely addressed in video games. Regarding the romance in Shenmue 3, would you be kind enough to tell us more about it?
We can't talk about love yet, it doesn't go that far. It's a bit difficult to explain. There are things like small signs of interest and a feeling of attraction. It doesn't go as deep as what you would normally call love, it's something more subtle. For example, it's like loving someone but not realizing it yourself. It's like, at an earlier stage than love. To quote someone like Nozomi, she clearly likes Ryo and it's obvious to see. Ryo, on the other hand, is the most ignorant guy in the world. Ha 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 ha.
True. I wonder if he's thinking about the Shen 4 stuff there as well, though.
Yeah, possibly.
There's small signs of interest and attraction.
In an interview in 2011, you admitted to us that your favorite moment of the saga was in the sequel to Shenmue 2. Will we see this moment in Shenmue 3 or will we have to wait until Shenmue 4 or 5?
In which interview did I say that? Ha ha he, I don't know anymore. He'll probably be somewhere in Shenmue 4 or 5.
Okay. He did say Chapter 11 in that interview, didn't he? If you remember.
He did, yeah.
That was last episode.
During Magic 2018, we asked you what fans could do to help you. Today, 5 months before the game's release, what more can we do?
Fans have waited and held out hope all this time, for almost 18 years. And no matter where we are, it's something that continues to be of great help to me.
Mm-hmm. And last question.
Did you develop Shenmue 3 with the idea of reusing the engine and game mechanics for Shenmue 4?
I didn't do it with Shenmue 4 in mind specifically. But Unreal Engine 4 is a very good engine and now we are finally able to take full advantage of the capabilities of Unreal 4. I think it might be worth it to use the same engine.
Yes, do it.
Do it.
Do it.
It makes sense, just do it.
Interesting though, like he has already got plans to continue into straight into Shenmue 4. So I mean, technically, he may have.
Maybe. I don't know. We know that there's concept art of Shenmue 4 out there because they pitched it, and Cedric told me that nearly 3-4 years ago. By this point, so we know something was done, and it would have been in the same engine. They wouldn't develop a new engine just for a pitch video. That'd be insane.
Yeah, for sure. Right, guys, let's have another little music break now. This pick is from Richard Cartlidge, and it is Lights. Welcome back. That was Lights, the Shenmue 3 track there. I think that plays in Bailu Village, though, actually. Nice pick, Richard. Interview 4. So this is the last interview that we're going to cover here, and it's actually the last interview with Yu Suzuki from Shenmue Master. So this was just before Shenmue 3 got released. This was Gamescom 2019. Do I have a date here? I've got August the 20th. This was conducted, so we're talking, 2 months before release?
It was November the 19th.
September, October, November, yeah. Okay, so the 3 months, pretty much 3 months. So 12 weeks off release. I think this interview is conducted by Trent. There's a picture of a guy getting something signed, potentially Trent there. But yeah, let's get stuck into this final interview now. So Trent from Shenmue Master.
Can you tell us how the testing phase of Shenmue 3 is going?
We are currently in the finalization stage of the game. We are therefore focusing on finishing and fixing bugs as well as finalizing the correct settings of the game.
I'd say the game was pretty much bug-free upon release, actually, which is a rarity in modern gaming.
Yes, indeed.
Was there a big day one patch? I can't remember.
There was a day one patch, but having played it or messed around with it without the patch, the game is absolutely solid and playable. I don't really know what it fixes, quite frankly, apart from one patch later on fixed the book exploit to make money quick.
Yeah. Which is good stuff. Well, not the book exploit, but the
rest of it. The rest of it's good.
The bug freeness.
You explained that 10 players could have 10 different ways to play in Shenmue 3. Could you give us a concrete example?
For example, to fight or save money, some people may choose to work out first thing in the morning, chop wood, and do other jobs to save money regularly. Other people with a different outlook may choose to earn money only when they are broke or start training only after losing a fight. Regarding how people save money, some people spend their money to buy only what they need over time, while others may earn a lot of money at once and use it to buy a lot of food. Other players can also go to the casino, exchange everything they own for cash and kaboom. They bet all their money on one bet. We may also have people looking for the lowest prices for vegetables, down to the nearest yuan. It's difficult to find a good comparison. It's like someone who will take a taxi just to buy vegetables $1 cheaper. In general, it's the people who put too much emphasis on the little things who end up losing the most money in the end, unlike those who are able to see the big picture. It really brings out the player's personality. I'm seriously considering having people play as part of the recruitment tests for EastNet. I really think it brings out the personality of the person.
Oh, sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up.
Regarding the new combat system, will Ryo have to fight multiple opponents at the same time?
Yes. You will sometimes face a single opponent, sometimes 2 opponents, 3 opponents, or even several opponents.
And how will Ryo lock on to the opponent?
There is a feature to change the opponent to hit, but by default the enemy closest to you will be automatically targeted.
The translator then comes back to say, with the question, so it's a soft lock.
But in Shenmue the term soft lock has a different meaning. So it's really an automatic change of opponent, but you can also change target manually.
Yu Suzuki shows me the right stick of a PS4 controller to illustrate his answer.
Yeah, that happens.
Will Ryo be able to use projections, or is this a feature you had to abandon?
Indeed, there won't be any throws like overthrow or vortex throw this time, but instead I designed several combat systems specifically for Shenmue 3, so I don't think the fights themselves are less good or of less quality. I think Shenmue 3's combat has improved to become even better than before. If you're interested in combat, try it out tomorrow when you play the demo.
Interesting.
It's a divisive comment, that, and it's interesting, he doesn't mention that it was talked about later on. Was it in an interview later on? I can't remember, where they actually said they were worried about the throws because of breaking the equipment.
Not sure if it's in that. Well, I doubt it's in this interview in particular. So, don't know. Who else would have done interviews? Dojo?
What about Ezra? Possibly.
Oh, possibly.
I mean, to be fair, they shot a lot of it in Wisenet offices, so you can imagine some dude getting counter-elbowed assault through the fax machine or something.
Fax machine. yeah. It could have been an interview that happened like after release, like why won't throw moves in, and then he sort of gave the reason why.
Will Shenmue follow Ryo all the time and everywhere in Shenmue 3?
No.
Very
nice, short and sweet answer there.
Will Ryo have to go to bed at 11:30 p.m. like previous Shenmue games?
It's at 11 p.m. It's different between Bailu Village and Niao, but usually you go home at 9 p.m. and sleep at 11 p.m.
Yeah, that is true actually. Like even though the curfew's 9, you can mess about for 2 hours, like in Rio's rooms and stuff, can't you?
Yeah.
Although, does it automatically go to sleep at 11?
I think it pulls you to bed.
Yeah, I think it's kind of nice in the hour that it does that sort of. I sort of found myself using that time to make all the phone calls. It was quite a good natural point, sort of in the game, to do that before you then go to bed. So yeah, I didn't feel as bad like being forced back to the hotel at 9 o'clock.
I wonder what time it is in Canada, time difference wise. If Rio's ringing at 11 p.m,
yeah,
4 in the morning or something for Nozomi.
You recently released in-game footage of a Shenmue museum called Save Shenmue. How did you come up with this idea?
We had this big, beautiful building planned, so I thought about making it a Save Shenmue building even though it was originally planned to be a big hotel.
I do remember something about that. Why do I remember something about that being a hotel?
I don't know.
I've got this vague memory of reading something.
Was it in the original design docs for Niaowu, possibly, or am I making that up?
Wasn't it something labelled as a hotel, perhaps?
I do vaguely remember it.
So yeah, would you have had the option of staying at that one instead, or would you even be able to go into that one?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Or just another hotel for having a bit of variety, I suppose. Like, there isn't just one hotel in this whole area. There's a bit of competition. I don't know.
So there is a link to the hashtag Save Shenmue fan campaign on Twitter?
The fans had a Save Shenmue campaign, so it was a building that was created for the fans.
Fair enough.
Will we still be able to work with a forklift moving boxes and racing against other competitors?
There is a part-time job with a forklift. You will move goods from a warehouse to a cargo ship, and vice versa. From time to time there will be an arcade machine on the freighter, and if you unload it, the next day it will be installed in an arcade room and you can play there.
I remember that answer being quite excited. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
That is one of my favourite touches in the game that it does. I think that's just genius.
Really even cool. Some of the other little items like vases and character things that you can carry actually appear in different places as well, don't they? I think maybe in the arcade it starts building up not just arcade machines, but these like other little things dotted around in the room.
Oh, I didn't actually notice.
I'm sure Peter mentioned that. Or maybe in the Save Shenmue building, it starts adding extra bits and bobs to the room, I think.
Yeah, it does. And then
because I think there's like special red boxes, and then when you sort of deposit them, it adds more of the character, like those big character figures on the rotating thing.
Yeah.
Among the playable minigames, are there any that will be musical?
No, there won't be.
And then there's someone shows him a slide with an image of a violin, and he comes back to say that is an item.
I see. So they must have showed a slide at. Would this be from Gamescom? I think when he was talking about the game, and
that's
minigames.
That's an image taken from Reboot Blue.
Oh yes, I remember now.
A random game conference that he went to in Croatia, and it was.
Yeah.
I remember watching that.
It's quite informative, that one.
Because he broke down the economy system and all that sort of stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, big time.
So yeah, for the audio listeners, there's a picture of a violin next to the word minigames. So hence the question, is there going to be a musical minigame? But no, it was just a piece of clip art, I suppose, he just grabbed quickly.
Yeah, possibly.
Did you already start working on Shenmue 3 for the Dreamcast in 2001?
From the start there was a scenario on which I based the game. Of course, I was already thinking about the future. However, Shenmue 3 is quite different from the scenario I had in mind at the time.
That's interesting.
So he's thinking about the chapter titles in a sense there with the screenplay as well, isn't he? Like Shenmue 3 would have obviously covered some of those.
Yes. So I'm very interested to know what that original script looked like and how different it is in the final product to 3, but that's a discussion from another day. Then there's some images shown of Niao-san and Meow Village. He says,
It's Niao-san who I already mentioned. It represents the Phoenix, one of the 4 big bosses of the Chiyu men. Landy guards the east. Niao-san is the south. The west is represented by someone called Byako, the Japanese pronunciation of white tiger, also pronounced Baihu in Chinese. The person representing the north has not yet been revealed.
But that's weird because they talk about Gente in the room, don't they?
And he has mentioned that in the previous interview, Anti-Gente and Kotei or whatever, Kotai. But it's interesting he actually says Baihu there, but obviously that is the white tiger. Snake tortoise would be the other person. The north would be the snake tortoise then, I think.
So either he's got confused there or it's changed and no one has told us. And it's inconsistent in the game as well.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, the West is someone called White Tiger.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Interesting.
He hasn't actually used the names of these people, though, has he, if you know what I mean? Like, he hasn't called Niao Sun Entai. So...
No, true.
So, yeah, probably not confused as such, but he's just naming them as the actual animal counterparts.
Yeah.
But very interesting. We'll take a look at that in a minute, actually, with the chapter stuff.
Will the QTE system in Shenmue 3 be different from the first 2 Shenmue games?
Yes, there will be some differences.
Okay.
Will I be able to see them while playing the demo tomorrow?
The demo doesn't have a classic QTE. There is a gameplay phase that resembles QTEs during the training phase against a sparring partner.
Right. Was the demo the same demo that we got, do you think? Like wandering around Bailey Village up to the Buki?
I think so, but I could be wrong.
I do think I remember Peter saying that was the demo he played.
I'm fairly sure it was.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Is there an element or feature of Shenmue 3 that you are particularly proud of?
I would say the balance of the move scroll system and the economic system. They are both well calibrated. It's a bit complicated to explain, but from a personal point of view, it's something I was able to do in Shenmue 3 that I wasn't able to do in Shenmue 1 and 2. Several elements are dependent on each other, interconnected, they are not completely independent of each other. I also think that the volume of voice recordings and translations in Shenmue 3 is much greater than in Shenmue 1 and 2. The NPCs are unique and have a lot to say, which should be pretty fun.
Interesting. Volume of voice recording.
Yeah. There is a lot. There is a lot there.
I don't think there's more than 2, but...
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it's more than 2, because 2's just got, so much.
In Shenmue 3, there will be flashbacks. How will they be triggered?
You will be able to make an international phone call to old characters like Fuku-san and Nozomi. You will then be able to see flashback scenes.
Were the flashback scenes created with Unreal Engine 4 or the original engine?
I won't comment on that at this time.
Okay.
What do you plan to do right after the release of Shenmue 3?
This is quite a poignant answer.
I'd like to start doing Shenmue 4 right away, if I can find a partner quickly.
That's an interesting comment there. If I can find a partner quickly. I don't know what was said behind the scenes, but whether they were like...
Hello, COVID.
Interesting, that comment. I think there's more to that than meets the eye.
That's the point, actually. It's probably just as well Shenmue 3 wasn't delayed any further, really, wasn't it? Because it was literally just before COVID, and then, it could have taken like even bloody longer. So I suppose it's a blessing, really. It came out. Came out when it did.
I'm just looking at the image of the signed interview sheet he's got at the bottom, and he also had a question about the boat chapter here, but obviously
didn't
actually use it. Rhea will take a journey on a boat. We also know that Chai will make an appearance in the game. Will this scene be a rearrangement of a deleted scene between Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2, as can be seen in this excerpt from the Shenmue comic? Interesting.
I'll bring that
Didn't cover that. But yeah, that is pretty much the end of the interview. He just says,
"You won't take a break."
I'm just going to take a little break.
And then question, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, thank you very much to the Shenmue Master team there for conducting all of these interviews over the years. I know a lot of them were quite Shenmue 3 heavy, but there were some elements in that actually we can talk upon now. So guys, let's go into the sort of the main focus for the remainder of the show now. We're going to be taking a proper look at these chapter concept arts that we've spoken about intensely. We've got a very nice post actually on the Shenmue Dojo forums here. The whole topic is amazing. I would really encourage everyone to go check out this forum topic, because there's some gold stuff in here. But I want to pick out post or reply 9 in particular, which is by HM Johnny, who pretty much, well, he shows the chapter concept art image, and then he actually shows the map image from the GDC conference that we looked at in part 1 of this 3-parter. I want to take a look at that map image in particular, actually. So there is some translations here, so let's do that first. So we'll take the map image of all 11 chapters. We'll break them down in a moment individually.
Yeah.
But from what has been translated, from what this guy obviously knows, the layout of China and where these actual chapters appear to be positioned on the map. So chapter tile 1, you've got Yokosuka, obviously. 2, Hong Kong again, obviously. And then we start getting into the interesting stuff. So chapter tile 3, which depicts the train, is basically a train, but it's sort of close to Shanghai, so that makes chapter 4 Shanghai and Suzhou.
Yeah.
Which I remember from when I actually travelled to Suzhou. The train between Suzhou and Shanghai is like an hour max. I remember it quite vividly, actually. It's very
much at all.
Not much at all between them. And actually that was like the last part of the tour was like Suzhou and Shanghai, just because obviously Shanghai's got the big airport, is where we went across to Japan from Shanghai, but we went Suzhou first and then Shanghai, and I just remember them being really close, and you can actually see on the map how close they are by how close those two images of the chapters are there. And then chapter tile 5 is Guilin, of course. 6 is Cheyenne, which I forget off the top of my head which one's 6. I think it is the one above, right?
Yeah, I'm just
the Niawu looking one.
Yeah, and it's Niawu, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah. And then chapter 7 is Liuang, so that's what Yusuke was saying in the interview, that we haven't reached that stage yet. 8 is Kangzhou, which actually is where Menkun is. If you remember, that is the location where apparently Ryo's father killed Zhao Suming. Chapter 9 is Inner Mongolia, so possibly quite rural, he says in brackets here. 10 is Beijing, which is quite a ways away actually, so we're going out of the outskirts for Inner Mongolia and then all the way back into like mainland China for Beijing. And he makes a point here in brackets, he says, note the map says end, possibly denoting the end of the story. And then sort of the final chapter here is called a location that probably isn't very familiar with many Shenmue fans up until this point, but it's a location called Xinjiang, which when I was doing the lore streams, that was quite an area that obviously we don't know anything about. I'd never even heard of it, if I'm being honest, until I've read this forum topic. And then continue on in this post, he says, somewhere during development of Shenmue this changed, as Shenmue 2 shows the numbered chapters in the notebook being chapter 1 Yokosuka, chapter 2 Hong Kong, chapter 3 Kowloon, chapter 4 Guilin.
True.
Which, yeah, it kind of does. I mean, I don't know if that is like the gospel, just because they're numbered in Ryo's notebook, that is chapter 1, chapter 2, etc. It's just a way of breaking up the story, I'm not sure. Because then technically what would be chapter 5? Would that be Niawu, or would that still be Bailu Village? Would chapter 5 be Bailu Village, even though it's still within Guilin? I don't know. Don't know how you'd...
Tricky, isn't it, how they've broken this down?
Yeah. And then next it says, later during Shenmue Online development, this leaks out. And again, he's translated what he can see from this image. So you've got Yokosuka as chapter 1. Chapter 2 is Genpu Maru, which was the boat. Obviously, we all know that as being the cut chapter 2. Chapter 3, Hong Kong. Chapter 4, Kowloon. Then chapter 5, we've got the Li River, or the Lai River. And chapter 6 is actually Bailu Village in Shenmue Online sort of era, which is interesting.
So is this Li River the same as the Li Jiang River, or is this like a completely separate river?
I don't know. I thought it was the same thing, but I could be very wrong.
It definitely is the same thing. So the Li River is the river that Ryo approaches Langushan on. That is that river. And then, because I actually covered this in one of my lore streams as well, there's a blog topic, I'll link it below if I remember to do it. Switch sort of breaks down the two different rivers. So you've got that, and then you've got the Yangshui River, which is the one that actually cuts through the middle when the camera's panning around the cliff, like we mentioned earlier, with the eagle flying around Ryo doing the Tai Chi. So that river there is the Yangshui, I think. but the Lee River or the Lai River is the river that Ryo approaches Languishan on. And actually, there's really good. We did that in the lore stream. We looked at a few different videos of these sort of similar looking boats traveling along the Lee River in real life, and it's just amazing. It's very much what you see at the start of Shenmue 2 there. Well, the Guilin chapter of Shenmue 2, that Ryo coming between the mountains on the Lee River.
Mm-hmm.
So that's amazing to witness actually in real life. I'd love to do it in real life myself actually.
Yeah.
And then he says this kind of corresponds to Shenmue 2 if you account for the boat chapter being cut. So Shenmue 3 would then pick up on chapter 5, 6 for Bailu Village, and this may account for the stories of Shenmue having 16 chapters rather than 11. So it could be that the original 11 chapters were broken down further during development as they got more ideas to make more sections playable and things expanded. So if it also loosely corresponds to that whiteboard image, that famous whiteboard image.
Yeah.
Which then wasn't that debunked a little bit at GDC? And he said there wasn't ever 16 chapters or something, or it definitely got scaled back.
Yeah, I don't know. I do remember us talking about that actually. That obviously they cut 16 to 11, but did Yu Suzuki forget that it used to be 16 or something? I can't quite remember.
Interesting.
But this guy says, I never put much stock into it. Was apparently from a Sega employee leak who remained anonymous and not Suzuki. But I always thought it was a bunk since anyone can write on a board, which is true. But this could be accurate, corresponding to the 16 chapter outline versus the 11. And again, this could have been way before Shenmue was even a thing, like the Virtua Fighter RPG.
Yeah.
That could have originally been 16 chapters, and then they cut it down to 11 to make it more concise for Shenmue, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting to see, because on the whiteboard, I'll for the audio listeners out there, Matt will probably chuck an image of this whiteboard up, but you've got Shenmue 1, which is chapter 1, and then 2 actually isn't assigned to anything, and then you've got 3, 4, 5 and 6 apparently assigned to Shenmue 2, and then 7 and beyond you've got as Shenmue 3, and then it's like 7 ... Shenmue 3 ... Shenmue 4 ... up to 16. You get the idea.
Yeah.
This is a really good topic post. I'm glad we're going through this actually, because I love this. So he then talks a little bit more about Shenmue Online. So it also had this image which mentions Seoul or whatever, the place in Korea, and Busan. Not sure where Busan is actually. Is that?
Not sure actually either.
Actually, that so Seoul. Oh, it must be Korea as well actually, because it's, if you look where Seoul is, I can never pronounce these words, but Seoul's like.
So yeah, it must be South Korea.
Area must be there.
And it looks like he's saying that might have just been like to appeal to the Korean audience, because obviously that's where they did all the beta tests and stuff, wasn't it? And I know they're quite, well, I don't know if they still are, but they were quite big on their MMORPGs in Korea back then.
Yeah, so I honestly don't think Korea was part of the original outline of Shenmue.
No.
I think, like you say, that is just because Shenmue Online was predominantly a Korean-based or Korean-produced MMORPG. So, where does that leave Baisha? Well, there was another image which came out during Shenmue 3's development that showed the notebooks, so the script sets. So obviously we've seen Peter show off his image of him actually owning Chapter 1 and 2, because obviously he backed at the 10k tier, and a few others did and got these script sets. This is the same series of script books that we've seen in this image here. Obviously this is for the first 5 chapters, and interestingly, the chapters shown in this image are in this order. So we've got Chapter 1 Yokosuka, Chapter 2 Hong Kong, then Chapter 3 is Suzhou, Chapter 4 is Guilin, so interesting, not Shanghai, and Chapter 5 is Baisha. So, considering Baisha was never supposed to be in the original 11 chapters, I thought it was something added for Shenmue 3, since it was never mentioned in any of the previous chapter list, and Baisha is loosely based on Fujian, which is just south of Shanghai and east of Hong Kong, so not really along the way from Guilin heading north, but perhaps in this fictionalized China they could have made it work. That being said, I don't think we'll see Baisha again. For one, any major story elements from it were probably put into Shenmue 3, and what's left could be repurposed to another location, but that's just my guess. Suzuki seems pretty willing to cut up the 11 chapter treatment and make whatever games out of it that he can at the time. And he links the video of Magic Monaco here. Actually, one of the Shenmue Master interviews. Looks like they're doing the mocap here, is it? I in the
Yeah,
thumbnail.
it does for like an example of mocap. Yeah,
Explaining that about chapters 3 and 4. It probably is how I like it, but chapters are quite interchangeable. As for what's left, Suzuki's only spoken about the 11 chapter model since Shenmue 3's announcement, so I'm assuming he's working off of that as his framework. And in this interview, a Game Informer interview, he says that Shenmue 3 comes out of chapters 3 to 6, but I'm not sure if that just means elements of it. And I think he did say in another interview that nothing had been used from chapter 3 and nothing had been used from chapter 4, right? But he'd used elements or something.
That's right, yeah.
Something like that. And then this guy just says that he believes that the Shuzo chapter was mostly repurposed for Miyawu. Which...
not entirely convinced by that.
It could be. And
it could,
that could just be about the sort of the canal aspect to it.
Yeah. The elements certainly probably were, but I'm not entirely convinced it was mostly. I think most of it actually was the next chapter onwards.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Going off of that basis then, guys, we'll use the map image as a little bit of a reference here. So let's bring up the actual chapter tiles. So we've got the first 7, of course, in high res. Love these. I'm sure everyone listening has seen these, but if you haven't seen these, guys, bloody hell, go
check them out.
Check these out because they're insane pieces of artwork. Obviously, originally produced, I think, by Kenji Miyawaki back in the VFR, Virtua Fighter RPG days.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely gorgeous, aren't they? Just really
gorgeous
good
artworks. Yeah. So we'll start with the first chapter anyway. We'll do them in order. So obviously, this is very much a Shenmue 1 based image. You've got Ryo at the forefront there with his backpack that used to be a kind of like a satchel back in those days with a rope. Interesting bag style. You've got a huge Iwao head in the background there, sort of in the sky, and in the hair of Iwao you've got Landy and the 2 bodyguards, or the black suits. A little bit below that you've got Guizhang and Master Chen, who is actually adorning a purple gown here in the concept, and a moustache, which is cool.
Oh, yeah, I didn't actually notice that.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have noticed that if it wasn't for this high definition
you wouldn't
artwork.
at all.
But again, it just shows that the original plan was meant to be like this. So nothing changed at this point. You've got Guizhang, Master Chen was always a thing by the looks of it. Moving into chapter 2, again, pretty much what you'd expect to see from the Hong Kong side of things here. We've got road signs bottom left, and then you've got the heavens sort of peeking out here. I can see Sam or Larry or whoever it is with the bandana at least, and Wong is there. Not sure who the other characters are. One of them probably is the other, Sam or Larry, but maybe just other gang members. I don't know. And then you've got Ryo approaching a huge figure of Ren and Shuing. Lovely artwork. And then just above them, you've got Donyu, sort of sitting in Shuing's hair. You've got Yuan with a chainsaw, so that was always a thing as well. And then you've got 2 other guys that I'm not sure.
I don't think they made the game now. I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I
you
guess
don't know who they are, Stu, no?
Yeah, I guess they're just meant to be random yellow heads, but they don't look like any of the ones actually in Shenmue 2. But I'm guessing that's just who they're meant to be.
And then we've obviously got the Kowloon backdrop there with a plane going over the top there. That airport that's nearby, I forget what it's called. Something like Kai Tak Airport or something. Moving into chapter 3 now, guys. Did you want to take over and describe this image for the listeners out there, Matt, I guess?
Yeah, I can do chapter 3. So chapter 3, it's an interesting one. Again, if you haven't seen this, check it out. Start from the bottom of the image, you've got essentially the underside of a train. You can see the wheels there and the tracks. Further above it, just slightly above it, you've got the shadowy figure of what looks like Chai. I think that's probably fair to assume. On top of that, on top of his head, you've got varying characters. One looks like a train guard. Somebody looks like he's from the military. Then you've got some other sort of characters sat there as well. One of them looks like they're holding a bit of a Chobi-chan type thing, actually. I'm not quite sure what that is.
Is it not like a drunken master bottle thing, whatever they're called?
I
It
thought it
looks
was
a
a
bit
hat,
like it, doesn't it?
Or was it a baby? I remember someone saying baby.
That could be a baby. Coming up to the centre of the image, you've got the Phoenix Mirror. And then to the left of that mirror, you've got Ren. To the right of it, you've got Ryo, or probably Akira, as he'd have been known back then in the green training gear. And then in the distance, you've got the window of the train carriage and the scenery as well.
Oh, stunning! Into I do hope we do get a train segment. Obviously, this is the train that is supposedly heading to Shuzo for this particular chapter. But the backdrop there would be stunning. Imagine if you were sat on the train with the scenery whizzing by. I'd love that. And from what we've heard, like Yu Suzuki wanting to create what did he describe it as, like going inwards rather than outwards, creating a bit of a chapter all based on such a tightly spaced train would be pretty cool, actually.
See, I think someone mentioned this before, but I was wondering, like, with these people here, there's sort of a couple who are like dressed quite smartly, sort of next to that security guard guy on the left. I think I remember someone saying, like, oh, maybe that's meant to be like the rich couple that ended up using in Niaowu, which they don't look exactly the same, but they just sort of give me those kind of vibes. Like I can't remember who sort of made that connection, but yeah, I just sort of wondered if they are related to those characters in any way, and maybe they moved them.
I do remember that myself, like more so the lady with the blouse and the pill necklace or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the lady that loses her handbag, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. So maybe that, like you say, they were repurposed or not. I'm not sure. Then moving into the Chapter 4 artwork card.
So the Chapter 4 chapter card. So starting at the bottom of the image again, you've got a fighting arena and the background of what looks like a quite a large crowd there, actually, and the design of a dragon sort of going around the arena. Above that, in the centre, you've got a figure that looks very much like Yuan Dazu with three female figures. He's in a wheelchair at the time. To the left of that, you've got an image of somebody, looks like whether it's a leader or a fighter, I don't know. On the right of that, you've then got an image that very much looks like Yang Lang. In the middle, going above, you've got then shots of Ryo/Akira in fighting mode. To the right of Ryo, at the top right of the image, you've got somebody who looks very much looks like Lao from Virtua Fighter, actually. Pretty much a spitting image. And then to the left of that, you've then got a sketch of somebody who very much looks like Landy.
Yeah, that has to be Landy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, interestingly, the poses of Ryo/Akira there are quite interesting. So you've got what looks to be like an iron palm, almost.
Yeah.
At the top there. And then you've got more of like a Baji Quan move going on there with like the elbow assault or counter elbow assault. And then the other one is like a knee thing that I'm not sure what that would be considered.
I don't know, but yeah, definitely right about the other two, for sure.
What do you think's going on in this particular image, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say as well, that guy at the top right definitely looks like Lao, like just seems to be unmistakably him, doesn't it? And it sort of raises the question of like, okay, when this was Virtua Fighter RPG, like, would we have encountered like other characters from Virtua Fighter, like besides Akira? Like, you know, does that mean like originally like the Street Fighters in Kowloon, like, you know, was Rod Jeffrey, was Greg Wolf, was Sarah, was Chunyan Sarah, you know, that kind of thing. So that is interesting because I remember initially when I first found out about, you know, Shenmue was a Virtua Fighter RPG, I sort of wondered, like, oh, I wonder if like you know, Lao, like Landy was originally Lao or like had a similar role or something. But no, this sort of seems to suggest that you know, Landy was always Landy and like Lao was like a separate character.
Yeah, his own thing.
And then, as you say, there's that seems to be Yan Lang, and then the guy on the bottom left he looks a bit like that sort of one henchman of Landy's in Shenmue 3, the one that Ren manages to beat. He's doing all like the
Bruce
silly
Lee stuff.
Bruce Lee, yeah, that's it. Yeah, the silly like Bruce Lee karate noises. It kind of looks like him. And now that I'm looking at the fighting arena, I'd have to check this because I might be way off. But I sort of watched through all of the Virtua Fighter anime recently, as I got the Blu-ray set that sort of has all the unreleased episodes that were never dubbed. And I think it might even be the last episode, I swear there's a fighting arena that looks like really similar to that. I'd have to go back and have a look and take some screenshots. But yeah, I'm just wondering if possibly bits and pieces ended up in the Virtua Fighter anime as well. I'd have to have a look at that.
Yeah, very, very possible. I mean, if you want to sort of take what Yu Suzuki said somewhat, like these used elements of Chapter 3 and 4, or whatever in whatever game, but potentially, and I think you've said this before, Matt, obviously you can see an elevator door in the back there, so it very much feels Kowloon-y in that sense. And you've got this arena, so potentially they could have just utilized this arena aspect for the street fights, like maybe like you say, the Rod Stunt, Greg Moore, the Baihu fight in the basement. Perhaps this was repurposing this part of the chapter as early as Shenmue 2, perhaps. Because
this sort of makes me wonder if originally it was just like a massive tournament that Ryo took part in, but then they decided like, oh, actually no, we'll break it off into like individual street fights. And I guess like Yuan Dazu was overseeing it as well for some reason.
He does seem very menacing, doesn't he? It's just above it like that, like it's his tournament. Fight to the death, blood sport or something.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
I'm not quite sure on the girls; they're like triplets or something. But yeah, that's that image. And then Chapter 5, quite a simple one, really. I'll just reel this one off quick. So this is Ryo and Shenhua, who's finally made it to Guilin. He's met Shenhua. So would this have been the first instance of seeing Shenhua? Kind of,
like
sort
it,
of said
it?
that, didn't it? In one of the previous interviews, I think we mentioned this. So you wouldn't have met Shenhua until Chapter 5, and then obviously you've got the outline of Niao-sun in the background, very mysterious, making up the forest sort of environment that we got there. And you do notice that Ryo's garments have changed again slightly. They're not as green as the original gis. Like over time, the colour seems to change in the whatever he's wearing. So it's kind of like the progression. I think it's trying to depict that. So each colour is like moving up the ranks. Kind of what we got in Shenmue 3 actually, with the different colour ranks of the fighters in the dojos. Similar sort of thing going on there. Chapter 6, again, you'd argue now, having played Shenmue 3, that this is essentially Niaowu, right?
Yeah.
Seems to be. It looks very much Niaowu at the bottom in terms of like those sort of ornate style buildings, the streets, the sort of mini town. And then you've got Ryo standing above there with his sort of Bajikwan body check sort of pose. I don't know, horse stance.
Yeah.
He's doing the horse stance there, isn't he? And then you've got the Master on top here, which potentially could be Master Su or Sun or whatever his name is.
One
from
of the
Bailu Village,
yeah,
perhaps.
one of the Masters for sure.
Or Master Bay, perhaps. Just an early design of him. Who potentially could have been Shun-Di, by the way, back in the day.
Yeah.
I know you just mentioned the different characters.
I'm pretty convinced that Master Sun's role was originally Shun's. It just kind of makes sense to me because it's sort of built up in Bailu, isn't it? Like you don't see this character straight away. I think he's like the last kind of person you meet in Bailu, isn't he? And I was sort of thinking okay, so when the game was Virtua Fighter RPG, it kind of would have made sense to hype it up, wouldn't it? And then you'd be like, oh, it's Shun-Di. So yeah, pretty sure that probably was how it went.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like when this image wasn't as high definition, I thought that this guy was attacking Ryo from above.
Yes.
but when you actually zoom in, he does appear to be more of a training type of
balancing
guy.
on his head, isn't
Balancing on his head, yeah.
There's quite a lot of sort of symbolism going on in these images, isn't there? I quite like it. It's clever.
The tattered clothes, that's what makes me think it's Master Sun more so than Master Bay, for example. And then you've got Yanlang again, which obviously Niaowu kind of things was Mr. Muscles, wasn't it?
Oh, Mr. G, yes.
Mr. G. But yeah, you've got the Mongolian look to Yanlang there on the left, and Niao-sun obviously on the right. And then in the middle appears to be sort of a sun / moon, I guess. You've got Ren and what appears to be Shenmue twice. I'm not sure if potentially the girl on the left could be different. Obviously the one on the right definitely is Shenmue, but the one on the left could be someone else. I don't know, like that Mei Mei or whatever her name was, or Ming Ming, is it?
Possibly.
Yeah, I can see
it was
it.
mentioned
Yeah.
at one point. But yeah, that's pretty much what we assume as Niawu anyway, and then that kind of moves into uncharted territory beyond that. So whether or not after Shenmue 3 we're going to go back to the chapter 3 and 4, or they've been written off now, I'm not sure. But looking at the chapter tiles beyond the story of Shenmue 3, now you've got this, what appears to be the Cliff Temple with chapter 7 here.
Yeah, definitely. It's very much intimated that it's a cliff temple, and actually, it's loosely based. There's some images on Google, isn't there, where there's places like this in China, which is like etched into the mountains. So pretty cool.
Yeah, what is that called actually?
I can't remember. I'd have to try and find it.
It's not like floating temple or something, is it? It's I can't think.
I'd have to do a Google.
Do a Google on that one. But yeah, you've got Ryo fighting a monk of sorts, like a Shaolin monk. You've got Shenmue at the bottom, appears to be screaming to the heavens, I guess. And then you've got Landy to the left, Niaosun to the right of her.
Yep.
And then the corners are quite interesting because you've got... I'll start with the bottom right corner. You've got like a series of Shaolin monks with the sort of poles. So again, when I was looking at on the lore streams, we were looking at like the Shaolin monastery that's based in... I believe that's quite close to Shanghai, actually, where the Shaolin Temple is. And these are the sort of the bow staff things that they use to fight with and train with. And then to the left, you've got this guy that has got like beads around his neck, very much like a Shaolin master.
As I say, he looks like he's in charge, doesn't he?
Yeah, like the video I watched, he was like the overseer of the monks. And making the decisions on who passes the test or whatever. So he's linked to the Shaolin Temple, definitely. But again, someone did mention he could also be Tentai. And then you've got, very interestingly, this figure, the bottom left there, which I know people have basically said looks like Zimming.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Zimming.
So you're of the mindset that that's Zimming, right?
Yeah,
is that what you mean?
Absolutely of that mindset.
What do you think, Stu? Do you think that?
Kind of, yeah. And then, but the other part of me's thinking like, okay, are these two meant to be the other two leaders? And obviously we know Yu Suzuki said like Zimming isn't one of the leaders, but then, yeah, this monk guy might just be, to do with the Cliff Temple. He might not be another leader at all. So yeah, I honestly don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I guess I just sort of think maybe they're the other two leaders, like just because they're there with Landy and Niaosun, but then they might only be affiliated with the Cliff Temple. It's just, it's difficult to say, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. Well, Hanging Temple. I just did a quick Google. Hanging Temple in Datong is the one that looks like the backdrop of that chapter tile. And actually, that chapter tile, according to the original map image, is Liuang.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Make of that as you will. We've obviously repurposed this Hanging Temple from Datong and the Liuang section, which I do hope we get to go to at some point, because obviously we've had that conversation with Shenmue about the Liuang tapestry she's got, and that's seemingly where her parents, her real parents, are from. That's seemingly like what she dreams of. Whether or not that was her ancestors, we spoke about that last time around, guys, didn't we? Where she's supposed to be able to contact the dead of her ancestors, I guess. Whatever was going on there. So I do hope we do get to go to Liuang at some point, because I think there's going to be some big revelations there regarding Shenmue's history. And then, obviously, we don't have the high quality for the remaining 4 chapter tiles, but I'll try my best to quickly go through them. So, Chapter 8, which is Kangzhou, which is where Menkun is, I've mentioned that. In this image, you've got Akira twice, I believe. He's sort of in this blue garment and his green garment.
It's the training like this is the time
So
skip.
so you think the green one is old
Yeah.
Kira, and then the blue one is like he's now a grandmaster.
Yeah. That he's in sort of, there has to be a time skip here. There has to be a time skip. I don't know how they can do that level of training that he needs.
We spoke about, because in one of the previous interviews, Yu Suzuki said that these 4 figures on each of the mountains, so this is the one where you've got the 4 mountain peaks, and there's a person on each of them. And he said that those were grandmasters, right? Not Chiyu-men leaders. So, if that's the case, maybe in this particular chapter, Ryo has learned from each of those 4. So rather than a time skip, maybe he's just learned from the best 4 masters, and he's become a martial artist at this point, or whatever. And then you've also got the figure of that guy, again, from the previous chapter title, the guy that looked like the beaded guy in the top left there, and a stone lion at the bottom, which, I don't know if that's significant or not. Anything else to say about that one?
I think you've covered that quite well. Yeah,
I mean,
nothing much else to say.
It's sort of, I mean, this is sort of going back to the previous tile, but I just wondered, like, with the Cliff Temple and the monks and everything. So, I mean, are these monks at the Cliff Temple like in league with the Chiyu-men, or are the Chiyu-men like have they invaded this Cliff Temple, like, obviously to get what they want? It just makes you wonder if they are kind of working together. Or
do you think they could be an enemy, or could they just be that Ryo's at the Shaolin Temple?
Could be either, couldn't it?
Yeah. And then if that's that same monk in the background in the next tile, does that suggest, like, he's helping Ryo? Like, is he the one that sort of pointed him towards these grandmasters?
Interesting. Maybe Ryo's learning at the Shaolin Temple to become a Shaolin master or something.
Yeah.
And this guy's like overseeing Ryo's journey at this point. I don't know. Maybe he sees the potential in him. I don't know. Yeah, interesting one. And then chapter 9, which was, I'd have to double check. Was it Beijing, that one? Or was that the next
10's Beijing.
What's 9, Matt? Just so I don't have to
Inner Mongolia.
Inner Mongolia, yeah.
Looking at this chapter card, it's like there's somebody in the background who's got a bandana on his head. I don't know if it's Ren or not, but it looks like there's training going on.
That looks like Ren, doesn't it? And if it's Inner Mongolia, he looks very much like a Mongolian.
So it could be. Could absolutely be.
Yeah, because there is some material somewhere, isn't there, that sort of confirms that Ren is Mongolian, or like he comes from like a Mongolian tribe.
It's in
or something.
It's in the Shenmue 1 and 2 HD re-releases, the Japanese website.
Yeah,
in there.
That was it. I knew it was something like random like that, and I don't know if that was ever shared like anywhere else, like probably in some random Japanese guidebook or something. I don't know, but it's interesting because obviously it looks like it's kind of building on Ren as a character a bit more, and like where he comes from. And I guess we're meant to assume like all the like that concept art of him riding a horse, like that. That's possibly from when they go to Mongolia.
Could be, for sure.
I also wonder with this image, because like going down it a bit, you've got the mountains in the background, and then you've got shadowy figures in the mountains with the Kira or Ryo at the front of it. So I wonder wherever they are, they're under attack. Potentially.
I wonder if this could have been the Warring Kingdoms.
Maybe.
Idea. Because that suggested to me like a big siege war thing of like loads of people on an open playing field like this, actually. And when I first saw this image, I actually thought those shadow figures were like making a building, if you know what I mean, like archways. But actually, when you do look at them closely, they are potentially people, right? Or even horses. People on horses.
Maybe, yeah, could be.
Interesting indeed. I mean, a lot of this stuff is very much speculation. We can't.
No, we haven't got a clue.
No,
we're just guessing from very low pixely images, which moves us into probably the most interesting image of the bunch that we can see. So this is definitely Beijing, of course, and this is definitely the Forbidden City. And the actual staircase you can see there, I've actually ascended those stairs, and like right in the middle is that sort of ornate pattern thing that runs through the middle of the steps. Really cool to see that is somewhere that's meant to be in the game. You can see the I forget what they're called, but they're sort of like where we'd light fires in them, what they like braziers, those sort of things in the background.
Yeah.
And then the Forbidden City aspect buildings you can see in the back there. What is most intriguing, and Matt, you probably best first to say your your feelings on this image here, but Ryo's carrying the body of someone here.
Yeah, and my theory has always been that it's Ren. And if you look closely at the previous chapter card and the chapter card that we're on now, you look at his feet, they're very similar colour. You look at the trousers, they're the same colour. You look at the robe, it's the same colour. Now, we're assuming in the previous card that is Ren with the bandana on. So therefore, by process of elimination, that is Ren's body in Ryo's arms.
Minus bandana.
Minus bandana, which is now on his head.
Yeah, Akira suddenly, between chapter tiles here, has a bandana now around his head. And the character he's holding doesn't have a bandana, but has long flowing hair by the looks of it. So it very much could be the body of Ren.
Yep.
And then in the sky, who do we think that is?
It's Landy, surely. Or could be Tente. Could be Tente, but...
Or do you think it's...
Don't know.
Do you think it's like saying that Ren's dead? That's Ren. You know, I like in the film, you've got
I can see what you're going with there.
The shadowy figure of a WoW in the sky in the first chapter. This is like the shadowy figure of someone, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just going by what we're saying, that body's probably Ren. I mean, I'm in complete agreement there. Like, I've always thought that there's just way too much foreshadowing, like suggesting that like Ren is going to die. Just little sort of hints here and there, like obviously the bandana, like Kira, the Ryo using that as a headband. That's sort of one of the more obvious links. And then in the Virtua Fighter games, Akira always says, so I'm going to try and not butcher this Japanese pronunciation, but when he wins, like one of the quotes he says a lot is Junin Hyundai, which means you're 10 years too early, which we've already heard Ren say like quite a few times. It's almost sort of his catchphrase. So I sort of thought, oh, okay, so when it was Virtua Fighter RPG, is Akira, did he start saying that to sort of honour Ryo's memory, honour Ren's memory?
I see where you're getting at, because obviously Virtua Fighter is Akira at his peak, isn't it? Like he's gone through this journey. Yeah,
it looks like it was basically meant to be his like origin story, basically. And just even like the themes in the story as well, like Iwao saying to Ryo, keep friends, those you love, close to you, which I don't think he really sort of takes seriously or takes much notice of. But I just always sort of felt like that's sort of leaning towards like, Ryo's sort of gonna eventually, his recklessness is gonna sort of catch up to him and he's gonna end up getting someone hurt or possibly killed. And that just sort of looks like it's leading towards it being Ren. And there's the scene as well where Ryo and Ren sort of spend the night on the roof when they're handcuffed together, and Ren notices like the Big Dipper in the sky, and then Shenmue later says something about it being like a harbinger of doom. So I thought like, couldn't make it any more obvious, really. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but just a lot of things seem to be pointing towards the fact that Ren will sort of be the one to die.
Very good, very good. Yeah, have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the Yu Suzuki Zimmer frame era of the Shenmue saga. Final image, guys. Chapter 11. Pretty simple image here, really. So this is the location of that Xinjiang, which again I'm not quite sure where that is in China. Obviously, we could see it on the map, but I'm not too sure what that location actually holds for the story.
No.
Or whereabouts in particular it would be set. Like obviously you could say like Suzhou, Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, these like quite well-known places to base off of, but Xinjiang I'm not too sure. Maybe someone out there more well-versed might potentially have an idea of what this image is actually depicting, perhaps. But you've got sort of like a swirly sky thing going on with the sun, the sky, the mountain tops or whatever. Very much like a smeared artwork. So whether that means anything, like there's some sort of motion going on or something, or it's just an art style. Then you've got Shenmue at the front, Shaun just behind her, and obviously Ryo again in the sky. I don't know if that means that Ryo's dead. I don't think so. It's probably more like he's going on his journey, and Shenmue and Shaun are going the other way. I don't know. Is there some sort of symbolism, do you think, with that?
I think it probably is that whatever he's been through his journey, he's now got to go and sort of just, I don't know, carry on his own potentially. And Shaun there being there is very interesting. So it confirms that she does reappear at some point through the series, which I think we all sort of gathered would probably happen anyway, given how they set it up. But
yeah, I guess we're meant to assume she does appear sort of in between the chapter 2 tile and this tile, because otherwise, it just seems like she sort of randomly
there
pops up again. But yeah, I guess she must appear again, and she's just not shown in like any of the other tiles. But I mean, I guess this chapter's maybe just going to be sort of a bit of a epilogue at the end. So like if that map image is saying like Beijing, like it says end, but then there's this one as well.
It's quite a ways away as well.
Yeah,
location wise.
Yeah, but obviously, we don't know what brings them there specifically. Obviously, hopefully we'll find out.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at that then, guys. So we've kind of covered all the chapters there for you. I do think you should probably check out this forum topic, and I'd love to know you guys' own opinions. If you could, leave them in either the Premiere chat here if you're watching live, or you can come back and drop some comments somewhere. It'd be really interesting to see what your opinions are on the way that the Shenmue story's set out here. It's, just going off that post there, you can actually see it's been through quite a few different iterations. You've mentioned in Cheyenne and one of them. We haven't mentioned Cheyenne just, so what was going on in that chapter. Where's the Great Wall leading, I assume, to the Cliff Temple at the end of Shenmue 3 there. So there's a few things to think about. Is Baisha gone now? Was that originally chapter 5? Is that there's very much a mishmash of rewrites, I guess, throughout the game's history. But I think it probably is safe to assume that those 11 chapter outline that we've seen there is probably what Yu Suzuki's planning on using. So whether or not Shenmue 4 uses concepts from some of the early chapters, like the cut chapter of 3 and 4 or whatever, or is he just going to move straight through towards the end here from chapter 7 onwards? I'm not sure. Hopefully we get to find out eventually. But yeah, please let us know your personal opinions on all of that. Hopefully we covered that quite well for everyone out there. So let's have one more short music break now. This was a pick from Shaun Hastings, and it's Mother's Cooking. Welcome back. That was Mother's Cooking from Shenmue 3 again, of course. Thank you very much, Hastings, for that pick. So we're going to end the show like we always do with a quiz, but this isn't just a simple quiz. This is a Terry quiz.
Oh boy.
Oh, Christ.
So guys, I think you should probably work together on this one because this is notoriously difficult when Terry writes these.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you've been paying attention to all 3 parts of the series. So the first section of the quiz is going to be based on the post-mortem, GDC 2014. We've got 8 questions there. Part 2 of the quiz is based on the chapter titles that we just covered in detail there. There's 4 questions on that. And the final part is going to test your knowledge of the Shenmue Master interviews.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Questions there. So let's just jump straight in, guys. Let's
Yep.
wrap this show up with a bit of a fun quiz there, and everyone at home take part as well, hopefully. So, post-mortem GDC, question 1. The following arcade games are playable in either Shenmue 1 or Shenmue 2 or both. Which year were these games released? So you get 1 point for each correct answer here. So, Hang On.
Oh boy.
Was Hang On released in 1984, 85, 86 or 87?
See, I want to say that and Space Harry were both 85.
Oh, I was going to go 84, but I'm not entirely convinced.
What do you want to say, guys?
See, Space Harrier, I'm sure is 85, but hang on, I'm not sure. I'm not 100%, admittedly. So maybe we'll go with you, Matt, and say 84.
Go with your instincts, because I'm not convinced.
Okay, right.
What was your
Sod it.
instinct, Stu?
85.
85 for Hang On. What are you saying for
Yeah.
Space Harrier?
85 as well.
85 as well. So we released 2 games in the same year, you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
2 huge games.
Yeah.
I think
Outrun.
Outrun I thought was 86.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, we'll go with 86
Yeah.
on that, and then Afterburner.
That was after, wasn't it?
Afterburner, Matt.
Wait. I want to say that was 87, but I could be very wrong.
What do you reckon, Stu?
Yeah, let's say 87. That feels right.
Okay. Question 2. What is the name of Yu Suzuki's RPG game prototype on the Saturn?
Oh, The Old Man in the Peach Tree.
Mhm.
Yeah. You don't want me to read all the answers out here. I'll read them just because obviously Terry took the time to make these up. So he's got the Kung Fu Grandmaster and the Peach Tree, the Old Man and the Fish, the Old Man in the Peach Tree, or the Children and the Fish. Yeah, pretty obvious that one. Question 3. Yu Suzuki made a seminal trip to China in the 1990s. His objective was to research and gather material for his upcoming Virtua Fighter 2, and this research also influenced his concept for a Virtua Fighter RPG, which eventually came to be known as Shenmue. But which year did Yu Suzuki make this trip? Was it 92, 93, 94, or 95?
So it's definitely not 95 because Virtua Fighter 2 came out in 94.
Yeah. I was going to say 93, but I could be wrong.
See,
Okay.
I was right. It could be 94 because I think Virtua Fighter 2 came out really late in 94. So it could still be 94, but then... 93 might make more sense, though.
Go 94. It was your instinct, and sometimes trust your instincts. Because
Okay.
because I agree with you. Virtua Fighter 2 came out in 1994. I remember it.
Yeah.
Go 94. Sod it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, we'll say 94.
And they did crank games out in those days, didn't they?
They
So-
did.
They did, yeah.
Okay, next question. Yu Suzuki visited several places during his trip to China. Which one of the following places did he not visit, though?
Oh, God.
So, Shaolin Temple, Liuang, Kangzhou, or Nanjing?
I don't think he went to Luoyang. I feel like I'd remember that if he did. But
Right, let's go through them. Shaolin Temple, do you think he went there?
it would make sense for him to go somewhere like that. So I'm going to say, yeah.
Yeah. I'd be-
Kangzhou. Did he go Kangzhou?
Kangzhou.
I think he did.
That does ring a bell reading the article.
Why do
The
I?
article, yeah.
Baji Huan. That's why. I'm sure that was where he met the Bajikwan master.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And Nanjing.
Nanjing. I'm honestly not sure with Nanjing and Liu. Yeah, can't even say it. Liu.
Let's let Matt make
know.
the decision on that. Matt, which one?
Go Nanjing.
Nanjing.
Yeah.
Okay. The plot of the Virtua Fighter RPG has 4 phases. What is the theme of each phase? So, introduction. Was that starting afresh, departure, fight, or sadness?
That was departure.
Development.
Was it?
Was that starting afresh, departure, fight, or sadness?
Oh, I'm trying to visualize it now. Oh.
So let me read the 4 phases. So you've got introduction, development, denouement, or conclusion. And then your options are starting afresh, departure, fight, or sadness.
I think sadness might be the introduction.
You could be right. You could be right.
Yeah, if it's talking about obviously the Iwao being killed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Development. You've got starting afresh, departure, or fight.
I don't know with departure and fight which way round it is, because something's telling me like departure is straight before starting afresh.
So where would you put starting afresh? So you've got denouement or conclusion.
So starting afresh, I'm pretty positive that's the last one, so that would be conclusion.
Okay.
I would agree.
No, I think departure is the one before that.
So would it go sadness, fight, departure, starting afresh?
I think so.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
So development, fight, and denouement, departure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Due to the platform change, Yu Suzuki needed to anticipate the hardware specifications of Dreamcast. Which of the following specification is better, worse, or the same as expected?
Oh, Jesus.
Right.
So the expected specification is shown in the bracket. So for the CPU, it says SH4 at 200 MHz. Was that worse, same, or better than what he anticipated?
Oh, I feel like Matt probably knows more about this stuff than I do.
I told you it was Terry's quizzes are tricky, aren't they?
I'm trying to just think. Can you read that again?
So, due to the platform change, Yu Suzuki needed to anticipate the hardware specifications of the Dreamcast. So, was the CPU of SH4 at 200 MHz, was that worse, the same, or better than what he anticipated?
Right. SH4 at 200 megahertz.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same.
Okay. Are you happy with that, Stu?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Main memory of 8 megabytes. Was that worse, same, or better than what the actual hardware ended up being, do you think?
That's worse because the Dreamcast had 16 megabytes of RAM and then an additional 8 for graphics. And I know that because I did it for my research for the PS2, whether Shenmue could have worked on PS2.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one, video memory, is 8 megs. Is that worse, same, or better?
It's the same.
Yeah.
Because video memory is, if you're talking graphic, depends how you break it down. Because video memory is essentially graphical textures in my head, at least, which would be the same as what's given now. So I'll go the same.
Okay. Happy with that, Stu? We'll just.
Yeah, this is completely like out of my wheelhouse. So yeah, I'll agree.
Okay, no worries. So Yu Suzuki described Shenmue with 3 keywords. Which one is not one of them? Freely, leisurely, fully, or gently. So he obviously described Shenmue with 3 of these words. So which of the 4 wasn't one that he described? Was it freely, leisurely, fully, or gently?
It uses.
I
Surely.
think it might be fully that he didn't use. I feel like all the other ones he did.
Go for it, because
it's freely, leisurely,
and gently. Is the other one.
Go for that, because
that would make the most sense. They seem to go together.
So fully is the one that he didn't use, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
During the debug phase, it was discovered that Yokosuka in Shenmue became empty and no NPCs could be seen. What was the reason for this?
That's because, if my memory serves me correctly, they all got stuck at the convenience store, and therefore to remedy it, they had to widen the door to let people in and out, so they could get in and out, and they didn't all congregate in there and get stuck.
Okay, well, your options were the NPCs just stayed at home, the NPCs were playing hide and seek, the NPCs were stuck in the Tomato Mart, or the NPCs became invisible.
So it's Tomato Mart.
Yeah. Right, part 2, guys. So this is based on the chapter title. So question 1, on the card for chapter 1, who is the biggest guy in the background? Is it a WoW, Landi, Guizhang, or Master Chen?
So it's a WoW, isn't it? Because Landy and the black suits are like in his hair, and Guizhang and Master Chen is just sort of at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So
a WoW.
Okay. True or false? On the card for chapter 2, Yuan is holding a chainsaw in his hands. Is that true or false?
True.
Good job. You got that because we only just looked at it. On the card for chapter 4, how many ladies are behind Yuan Dazu? Is it 2, 3, 4, or none?
3.
Yeah, because we said triplets, didn't we? So yeah,
we did.
Pretty sure it's 3.
Okay. Last question here. True or false? On the card for chapter 11, Shenfa, Ren, and Shuing are standing together. Is that true or false?
The last chapter card is false.
Yeah, Ren isn't there.
No.
It's just Shenfa and Shuing.
That's because Ren is dead.
yes, he is. He's very dead.
Okay, I'll go with you guys on that one. So we're moving into part 3 now, the Shenmue Master interviews. So during the interview by Shenmue Master at Gamescom 2019, Yu Suzuki mentioned that the saved Shenmue building was meant to be something else originally. What was it supposed to be?
Hotel.
Yeah, okay. Apparently. Yeah.
Very good, very good. He says, a hotel, a place for practicing kung fu, a place for gambling, or a place for food.
Yeah, it's definitely a hotel.
Yeah.
And that's probably why when we read that, and I was like, I'm sure I've heard about this before, probably because of me checking out this quiz before. Okay, question 2. Yu Suzuki mentioned that Niao Sun represents the Phoenix, one of the 4 big bosses of the Chiyu Men, and she represents the South. What do Landi, Gentai, and Byako, Japanese pronunciation of White Tiger, also pronounced Baihu in Chinese, represent? So does Landi represent the North, the East, or the West?
The East.
He's the East, yeah.
Gentai, North, East, or West?
Oh god.
It's got to be North, because I'm sure Bayou was West.
Yeah, I think you're right. West. Okay, yeah, West White Tiger. That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the third one. Baihu. Okay.
Yeah.
West. In the interview with the composers of Shenmue, it was mentioned, and this isn't an interview that we actually looked at, but Terry's just put this in here. Maybe you assumed that we would look at this one, but doesn't really matter. It's going to be an interesting question anyway. So in the interview with the composers of Shenmue, it was mentioned that for the first 2 Shenmue games, so more than X different songs were composed during the 4-year project, and less than Y% of them have been used so far. So what are X and Y? So let me read that again. So
yeah,
in the interview with the composers of Shenmue, it was mentioned that for the first 2 Shenmue games, more than X different songs were composed during the 4-year project, and less than Y% of them have been used so far. So, how many songs and what percent, basically? So, X equals 500, X equals 600, X equals 700, X equals 800. So, how many different songs do you think were composed during the 4-year project? Let's start with that first. 500, 600, 700, or 800?
See, before you said the choices, I had 500 in my head, but then I thought, oh, maybe it was 800.
I reckon it's 800. It's got to be more than 500.
800?
Shed loads.
Probably is, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, and then how much percent-wise have been used so far? So 20, 30, 40, or 50%?
I'm sure Yu Suzuki's talked about this before, and I'm sure he's flitted between 20 and 25%, so I'd go 20.
Yeah, it wasn't very high, was it? I'm sure it wasn't as much as like 50, so yeah, I'll go with that.
So, for clarification then, we've gone X equals 800.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Y equals 20%.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Bearing in mind as well that this would have been before Shenmue 3.
I'm still happy with it.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
So, during the interview by Shenmue Master at Gamescom 2017, Yu Suzuki mentioned that he plans to create several mechanisms for exploration and interaction. Which one of these did he mention? A. Affinity system. B. Cooperative quest. C. Character perspective. And D. New free battle system. So your options are A only, which was affinity system. A and B only, which is affinity and cooperative quest. A, B, and C, so like all three of those, or all of them, including the free battle system.
I think he said all of them,
Yeah, it was all of them.
All of them. So he actually mentioned all of affinity system, cooperative quest, character perspective, and new free battle system.
Yeah.
Okay. In an interview at Magic 2016, Yu Suzuki said that one day a fan talked to me a lot about what he found good about Shenmue. He said the best thing about Shenmue is that Ryo always says, what is the missing word? Is it
Thank
you?
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, thank you. He's always very polite. That's the way it was talking about.
So your options were I see, thank you, I understand, or excuse me. So I think we're pretty much in agreement there.
Yeah, he says those things a lot as well, but it's definitely thank you.
Okay, so for the last two questions, again, an interview that we didn't look at, but this is an interview with the La Odisea de Shenmue, which is a book that was published in Spanish. Remember this book?
I know the book, yeah.
It was published in Spanish in October 2015. So there's an interview in the book. Who was being interviewed? Was it Yu Suzuki, Cedric Biscay, or James Brown? So you can probably narrow that down to a 50-50 between Yu Suzuki and Cedric. Who do you think was interviewed?
That'd be Yu Suzuki was interviewed.
What do you think, Stu?
My mind sort of went towards Cedric, like just because it's French.
Oh yeah, good point.
It's actually Spanish, but
sorry, I'm just because the website's French. Sorry, I'm totally okay. Right, in that case, the Yu Suzuki there. Ignore that.
We'll go with Yu Suzuki, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, and who wrote the preface of the book La Odisea de Shenmue? Was that Yu Suzuki? Was that Cedric Biscay? Or was it Carlos Ramirez or Ramon Mendez?
I couldn't bloody tell you. Take a guess.
Okay, the name Ramon Mendez rings a bell for some reason, so
go with that if you like.
Let's go with that. Yeah,
because I ain't got a clue.
Fair enough. Right, I'm going to submit it. That's the end of the quiz. Let's view the score. So you got between you got 25 out of 30.
Oh, that's not bad. Nice. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at what you got right and what you got wrong. So 12 out of 16 points in the first part. Okay. So you actually got all of the release dates of the arcade machines. So Hang On was 85.
Wow.
Space Harrier was 85. Outrun was 86. And Afterburner was 87.
Nice one.
Nice one, Stu.
Take that.
The Old Man and the Peach Tree, obviously you got that right. Mm-hmm. It was 94 when Yu Suzuki made the trip. So a little bit of extra information from Terry here. He says, articles and issues of the Japanese Beep Mega Drive magazine at the time confirmed that the year the trip took place was 94.
Ah, very good.
Because if you remember, actually, in the GDC, on the slides, it said 93. So actually going back to the magazines at the time, it was documented to be 94. You were correct with Nanjing. That was a place that he didn't travel to.
Brilliant.
And when you were talking about Liu Wang, Stu, I was thinking because he did go to the Longmen Grottos. That's it.
Oh, that rings a bell. Yeah,
and that's actually in Liu Wang.
Okay.
So
genuinely couldn't remember.
So you got the plot line of the Virtua Fighter RPG 4 phases slightly wrong. So it was Sadness as introduction, but the middle two you got the wrong way around. So obviously it's Departure.
Right.
Ryo leaving for Hong Kong comes after Sadness.
Oh, okay.
And then Fight was the denouement stage, which you remember was like the big fight between Landy and Ryo.
Oh, yeah.
What you mentioned there.
Yeah.
And then the conclusion was starting afresh with a friend or whatever Mark Soon said. If you remember.
Yeah.
You got the main memory wrong of the specification thing, 8 megabytes. It was actually better. Terry's put here.
What was it then?
So I think it was probably to do with the wording of the question. So I think Yu Suzuki anticipated the hardware specs probably to be more advanced or less advanced. Maybe Yu Suzuki said 4 megabytes. And it was actually 8 megabytes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, right, I'm with you.
So 8 megabytes, according to this, was better than what Yu Suzuki anticipated it to be anyway.
Yeah, it would be right, I think.
Yeah, so Yu Suzuki describes Shenmue with 3 keywords. Which one of these is not one of them? You got that one wrong as well. It was actually freely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he must have said leisurely, fully, and gently.
Okay.
You got the NPC stuck in the smart map right. Part 2 chapter tells, obviously, Wow was the biggest guy in the background. It was true that Yuan was holding a chainsaw. There was 3 ladies behind Yuan Zoo, and false Ren wasn't stood there with Shenfo and Shuing, so you got that right.
Nope.
Part 3, Hotel, you were correct there. That was the one that was originally the Save Shenmue building was a hotel. Landy was east, Gentai north, Baihu west, of course.
Excellent.
You got looks like you got the music question wrong.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm trying to work out actually what. I don't quite get that. Let me copy that. The way that's worked out that question to you guys in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's have a loosh.
Or did you get it right? I don't know. I can't quite work that out.
Oh, we got that. We got that right. Yeah.
Just weird how it's got the X's there, but
yeah, it's right.
You were right. Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, it's right.
It's the last question you got wrong.
Yeah, because the rows.
Yeah.
Like
2 out of 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So during the interview with Shenmue Master at Gamescom 2017, Yu Suzuki mentioned that he plans to create several mechanisms. All of them, you were correct there.
Mm-hmm.
Ryo always says thank you. You got that right.
Yeah.
Yu Suzuki was the guy being interviewed in the La Odisea de Shenmue book.
Oh, yeah.
But the preface was actually written by Cedric Biscay.
Okay, fair.
So don't feel too sad about that one because we didn't even cover that. So, so yeah, 25 out of 30, guys. Very good indeed.
Yeah.
Take that indeed.
Yeah, thanks for making us sweat as always, Terry. Yeah.
Definitely made us sweat.
Like a big Terry quiz. It's been a while actually since we did a big Terry
quiz.
It
has been a while.
Very enjoyable. Right, guys. So that concludes this little mini series, or well, not so mini, I suppose. 3 parts, quite a hefty chunk of Shenmue Dojo show content for you there. Thank you very much again to Stu for joining us for these 3 parts. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and thank you for all of your input.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, I mean, just looking over the chapter tiles, I mean, I think I've said before, like it's both fascinating and frustrating at the same time, isn't it? Like just trying to speculate and sort of fill in the gaps where we don't have all the information. But yeah, it's been really fascinating sort of looking over them and getting these little nuggets of stuff from the interviews as well. So yeah, thanks again for having me, guys.
You're very, very welcome, Stu. I'm sure we'll have you back in the future. Matt,
Yep.
Do you want to say anything?
Do I want to say anything other than thank you everybody who have been members, who signed up for that. I won't go through the spiel too much here. I'll put something at the end for everybody to have a look at, and all the members get the shout out there, because there's quite a lot of you. We're approaching 30 now, so thank you everybody who's joined up for that. It's much appreciated. You can find us over on YouTube, Shenmue Dojo VOD. You can find us on Twitter or X, Shenmue_Dojo. Everywhere else, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Blue Sky, any of the other social media platforms you can find us. We are Shenmue Dojo, and we also have shenmuedojo.com or shenmuedojo.com/forums if you want to participate in any discussions there. And also, we have our own Discord server these days as well, where if you are a member or a Twitch subscriber, you get access to exclusive monthly competitions as well.
Just gave away a copy of What Shenmue in that particular Discord secret group, so yeah. Let us know if you are a member, guys, if we haven't added you to that channel yet. We can do that rather easily if you let us know. Right, very good, guys. So we're going to end with Clunky Mage's Shenmue 3 pick here. This was actually the piece of music that plays inside Hotel Niawu. It's actually an older piece from Osamu Murata called A Place Where the Sun Sets version 2. Awesome piece of music. So yeah, enjoy this, guys, and we'll see you again very soon. Take care.
See you guys. Bye.
Cheers.
Oh, look at the time.